Faites l'appel, s'il vous plaît, Madame le greffier.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Hélier. Madame le connétable de Saint-Laurent.
Présente.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Brelard.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de la Trinité.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Pierre.
Présent.
Madame le connétable de Saint-Martin.
Présente.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Clément.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Greville.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Bonne.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Sauveur.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Southern. Madame le député Labey.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Tadier.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Luce.
Présent.
Madame le député Dublay. Monsieur le député Morel.
Présent.
Madame le député Le Hegera. Monsieur le député Ayer.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Ward.
Présent.
Madame le député Alice.
Présente.
Madame le député Gardner. Monsieur le député Gorse.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Farnham.
Présent.
Madame le député Moore.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Mezek.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Balash.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Coles.
Présent.
Madame le député Porray. Monsieur le député Ward.
Présent.
Madame le député Miles.
Présente.
Madame le député Scott.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Renner.
Présent.
Madame le député Curtis. Madame le député Feltham.
Présente.
Madame le député Binet.
Présente.
Madame le député Jehan.
Présente.
Madame le député Miller. Madame le député Howell.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Binet. Monsieur le député Ferry.
Présent.
Madame le député Kovac.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Curtis. Madame le député Ward.
Présente.
Madame le député Wilson. Madame le député Stevenson.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Andrews.
Madame le greffier.
Prions Dieu, notre aide soit au nom de Dieu qui a fait les cieux et la terre. Amen. Seigneur Dieu, Père éternel et tout-puissant, qui a établi le gouvernement et les puissances de la terre pour le règlement et pour la conduite du peuple, et qui nous a commandé d'avoir toujours pour but la gloire de ton Saint-Nom, nous te prions qu'il te plaise de donner à cette assemblée le don de conseil et de prudence, d'unir le cœur et les affections de tous ceux qui la composent, et de les conduire tellement toi-même par ton Saint-Esprit, que toute leur délibération étant accompagnée de ta bénédiction, réussisse au bien et au soulagement du peuple qui te plut de commettre le soin. Car nous t'en prions au nom et par le mérite de ton Fils bien-aimé Jésus-Christ, notre Seigneur, qui nous a enseigné de t'invoquer en disant: Notre Père, qui est aux cieux, ton nom soit sanctifié, ton règne vienne, ta volonté soit faite dans la terre comme au ciel. Donne-nous aujourd'hui notre pain quotidien, et nous pardonne nos offenses, comme nous pardonnons à ceux qui nous ont offensés. Et ne nous induis point en tentation, mais délivre-nous du mal, car toi la règne, la puissance et la gloire, au siècle des siècles. Madame le député Dublay.
Défaut.
Madame le député Porray.
Défaut.
Madame le député Miller.
Défaut.
Madame le député Wilson.
If I may, sir, if I could ask that Deputy Wilson be made excusé. She's had to race to the UK on behalf of a significant other who's very poorly, and otherwise she would be in the States today.
I was content to mark the deputy excusé. Excusé. Les états sont constitués.
Sir, may I raise the defo on Deputy Porray?
I was content to raise the defo on Deputy Porray. The defo is raised. Deputy Le Hegera.
Sir, I have a medical appointment at 10:40, if that's in order, thank you.
Thank you very much. Members will have seen that former Deputy David De La Haye recently passed away. Mr. De La Haye was born in 1936 and attended Westwood College in St. Ouen before completing his studies at De La Salle College. He was married to Anne and spent his working life as a farmer up until the mid-1980s. And then from 1985, he was an hotelier with his wife, running the Idle Rocks Hotel in St. John for several years. He served in the Honorary Police, starting out as a constable's officer and ending as a centenier. He first entered politics when he was elected Deputy of St. Ouen in 1972, a position he held for some 15 years, until he moved constituencies and was elected a Deputy of St. Helier No. 3 District in 1987. Throughout his time in the States, Mr. De La Haye served on a wide range of committees and held several significant roles, including Vice President and then President of the Resources Recovery Board, a member of the Executive Committee of the Association Internationale des Parlementaires de Langue Française, reflecting his commitment to international parliamentary cooperation, Vice President of the Housing Committee, President of the Anne Alice Rayner Fund, and member of the Committee of Inquiry into the Rue Fondant Trading Estate Development. He was committed to openness and transparency, and in 1987, he persuaded the then Island Development Committee to ensure that applicants or their agents could have access to written objections received by the committee in respect of their applications. He retired from the States in 1990. Our thoughts are with his family and friends at this difficult time, and I ask members to stand to reflect upon his life. May he rest in peace. Constable St. Ouen.
So can I just advise you that I have to take a close family, a relative to hospital this afternoon, and I'll be absent for an hour or so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Deputy Gardner.
I would like to raise a defo on Deputy Douglas, please.
Was content to raise the defo? The defo is raised. I'd also like to announce that there is a distinguished delegation joining us in the gallery this morning, all from Portugal. The Secretary of State for Portuguese Communities, Mr. Emílio Sousa, the Director General for Consular Affairs, Antonio Monish, Consul General Ana Brito Maniera, and Consular Officer Vitor Oliveira. They are all visiting Jersey for the next 2 days as part of a Portuguese governmental, cultural and community engagement visit. I invite members to welcome them in the usual way. Now move on to the order paper. There are a number of matters listed under B, number of documents presented or laid under C. The following matters have been lodged under D. P.97, Draft Animal Welfare Law Amendment lodged on the 23rd of January by the Minister for the Environment. P.102, Amendment to Standing Orders, Code of Conduct Amendment lodged on the 26th of January by Deputy Scott. P.102, Amendment to Standing Orders, Code of Conduct, Second Amendment, lodged on the 26th of January by Deputy Scott. P.102, Amendment to Standing Orders, Code of Conduct, Third Amendment, lodged on the 28th of January by the Privileges and Procedures Committee. P.122, Draft Treaties Law Amendment, lodged on the 2nd of February by the Chief Minister. P.11, Draft Controller and Auditor General Amendment Law, lodged on the 26th of January by the Chief Minister. P.12, Amendments to Standing Orders, Miscellaneous Amendments, lodged on the 27th of January by the Privileges and Procedures Committee. P.13, Bailiffs Consultative Panel Amendment to Terms of Office, lodged on the 27th of January by the Privileges and Procedures Committee. P.14, Treating Children as Children, lodged on the 27th of January by Deputy Balash. P.15, Draft Health and Social Care Professionals Register Law, lodged on the 27th of January by the Minister for Health and Social Services. P.16, Draft Termination of Pregnancy Law, lodged on the 27th of January by the Minister for Health and Social Services. P.17, Agreement between the Government of Jersey and the Government of the Kingdom of Bahrain, elimination of double taxation, taxes on income, and prevention of tax evasion avoidance, lodged on the 27th of January by the Minister for External Relations. P.18, Draft Sea Fisheries, Trawling, Netting and Dredging Amendment Regulations, lodged on the 28th of January by the Minister of the Environment. P.19, capping the number of high net worth individuals granted entitled status via Regulation 21E, lodged on the 2nd of February by Deputy Renouf. The following propositions have been withdrawn. P94, Management and Maintenance of the Halfday Park site, lodged on the 20th of October by Deputy War, and P116, Future Approach to Personal Cannabis Use in Jersey, lodged on the 19th of December by the Minister for Health and Social Services. There are no matters under F or G or H. There are a number of written questions under I to which responses have been provided. We now come to oral questions with notice, and the first question is from Deputy Gardner to be put to the Minister for Sustainable Economic Development. Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. Further to the report findings of the Jersey Institute of Directors' Third Economic Confidence Survey for 2025, which indicated that 63% of businesses in Jersey felt pessimistic about the island's economic outlook, will the Minister advise the Assembly what specific actions, if any, the government is taking to address these concerns, and if no actions are taken, explain why not?
Minister.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Deputy for her question. Sir, the Institute of Directors survey is a very useful survey, but it must be taken in context. And interestingly, the report finds that a majority of respondents are pessimistic about Jersey's economy, whilst that same majority is optimistic about their own businesses. To answer the question specifically, sir, we have an entire programme in government, the Future Economy Programme, which is focused on tackling the island's future economic outlook and, of course, the ageing population. Last year as well, sir, we invested £10 million in various parts of the economy through the Better Business Support Package. This year we are matching that, and that is entirely designed to support businesses and help them prepare for a higher productivity environment, thereby helping create confidence in the economy. At a wider level, sir, the Investing in Jersey programme is designed to provide confidence and certainty in investment in Jersey's infrastructure. I have been working, sir, with the Environment Minister for some time to simplify the planning process, particularly from an economic perspective. The Minister for Financial Services, sir, is working on the competitiveness work in finance in order to build long-term confidence there. I have, obviously, with the Council of Ministers, appointed a new ferry service provider, and that is aimed at providing certainty in Jersey's ferry services for the long term. And of course, this government is moving forward with the hospital, with its commitment to the hospital and developing the hospital construction sites, which again, alongside investing in Jersey, is ensuring that our infrastructure is fit for purpose into the future. So we will continue to work with businesses to drive economic growth in Jersey and help address the economic challenges that we have, both from the current global uncertainty and also our own demographic issues, both of which we have been aware of for some time and working to address. So I'm pleased to say as well, we are also seeing signs of growth in tourism, with the year ahead showing forward bookings and hotels being higher in all but 1 month of the year to come. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary.
Thank you. And the Minister mentioned geopolitical uncertainty. And would the Minister accept that while global geopolitical uncertainty plays a role, domestic policy choices such as public spending levels, regulatory burden, and clarity over investment plans also materially affect business confidence in Jersey?
Minister.
Sir, I fully agree with the Deputy, and that is exactly why we have developed the Investing in Jersey programme, sir, to provide that certainty, in particularly in the construction sector. It is why also, sir, we are pushing forward with the hospital project, again, to provide that certainty, sir. There is no question that the government needs to continue to invest in capital programmes that drives confidence in the economy and also provides infrastructure which islanders and visitors to the islands can use. And sir, I'm pleased to say that after years of neglect through various governments, that investment in infrastructure is coming forward and will continue to do so in the coming years, sir.
Deputy Renouf.
Thank you, sir. Most of the items that the Minister mentioned are well known about and have been for some time, and the IOD survey could be said to have them already priced in. So what is he going to do that is new that would suggest that the dial could be shifted in terms of confidence?
Minister.
Sir, it's interesting when the Deputy says that it is work that has been known about for some time. That's exactly right, sir, because it was some time ago that we understood on the back of COVID, on the back of Brexit, these were tumultuous events which will knock economic confidence. And I think it's also really important, sir, that, as I said in the beginning of my answer, the same majority of business leaders were happy and confident in their own businesses, just not so in the economy. So, sir, I don't think that the work we are doing, although previously announced, is in any way old work. It is new work that continues and will continue to provide confidence in our economy, sir. I think new work that we do need to do is we need to work more clearly around planning and to ensure that the planning process is smooth for all businesses, sir. I think it's really important as well, sir, that we continue the work in the agricultural sector, which has completely refound confidence in that area, but there are challenges ahead which will need to be dealt with, sir. And from the tourism perspective, that has been a focus for some time, and we will continue to work with the tourism sector to ensure that they can feel the confidence that they have, that they need, sir, as well, by ensuring that Jersey remains a fascinating visitor destination and a popular visitor destination, sir. So it is a case of continuing with the work that we have begun, sir, because I think the work that we have begun is long-term work. And whilst politics can too often be a short-term game, it is by maintaining that strategic direction and continuing to invest in our economy, particularly the capital side of it, which I think is very new for governments of Jersey over recent decades, that we will provide that confidence that the island needs.
Supplementary.
Yes, sir. Can the Minister therefore confirm that his aim in terms of reducing that 60% figure to something which he would presumably find more acceptable is to keep on going on and hope that people notice that eventually it bears fruit?
Minister.
So I think one of the difficulties around economic policy is that it is always and should always be long-term, sir. I think we can do new things. I think we can further reduce the stamp duty on investment properties in order to stimulate confidence in the construction sector, sir. I think there are other things that we can continue to do, and we will continue to look for greater opportunities. I am also looking, sir, at ways we can develop our ports so that they are more wider used, and also, so I'm very pleased to see that investment in the airport has taken place, which I think will also help deliver greater confidence for people using the airport and the island's economy. I think it is very difficult, sir, when you are focused on long-term issues to satisfy the short-term appetite of the political arena, sir. But I will continue to focus on the long term, because it is the long term that through which we will bear fruit, as the Deputy says.
Deputy Sadio.
So Deputy Gardner's question focuses on the IOD survey, but has the Minister conducted his own survey from a departmental level? And if not, why not? And if he has, could he let us know what the results were and whether they tally with this information?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. It is not for me to undertake a survey because particularly, sir, the Statistics Jersey undertake the business tendency survey. And I think that is a far better organ to use for surveys of economic confidence in this island rather than the department itself. You know, I do expect the business tendency survey to have more than 41 respondents, which the IOD survey had. And I think it is important to understand that the IOD survey was just 5% of its membership, sir, and so it was not a huge sample. It's also a self-selecting sample. So it is, in my view, likely that you are going to get people who feel motivated to respond, and often that comes from a negative perspective as well.
Supplementary.
Has the Minister been able to give consideration as to why there seems to be an apparent disconnect between a pessimistic outlook for the wider economy versus an optimistic outlook for individual businesses? Does that suggest to the Minister that there's no connection between what happens in the outside economy in terms of whether or not businesses have confidence in their own future success?
Minister. So it's something I consider a lot, and it's something of a philosophical question. It's difficult to provide a precise answer to. But my take on it is that any business leader knows their own business. They know the numbers in their own business, and they know how it is performing. When it comes to the economy, it is very much a sense of feeling rather than a sense of knowing, because, you know, we issue, sir, for instance, the GBA statistics in October every year, just once a year. So that just gives us that one annual snapshot. We have the business tendency survey. We don't have a lot of other economic indicators that we look at, sir. Obviously, last year, from a tourism perspective, had many negatives around it, which won't have helped from a confidence perspective. But, sir, where do people get most of their sense of the economy? A lot of people will get it from the media, sir. And it is an unfortunate reality around the media that they tend to prefer to report bad news rather than good news. And certainly from the international media's perspective and the national media's perspective, the kind of tumultuous events, everything from, you know, allies turning against allies and so on, creates for a great sense of uncertainty in the world that we live in. And I think that speaks to people's feelings about the economy, which is something they can't measure themselves, as opposed to their own businesses, which they do measure themselves.
Constable Trinity.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister agree with me that the planning process can be smoothed when applicants and their agents engage at an early stage with the officers of the department to ensure that the applications coming forward are compliant with the Bridging Island Plan? And it's really only when they try to stretch the envelope that applications run into difficulty. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir. I'll agree with the first part of the Connotab's statement, not so much with the second part of the Connotab's statement. I think it is always worth applicants going as early as possible to engage the planning officers, sir. but I don't think it's always about stretching the envelope that leads to a lack of a smooth process. There are many other reasons that a process can be disrupted, and not to do with that. But I do agree, and I would always suggest that applicants or anyone thinking of creating a planning application go as early as possible to the department and engage in that pre-application process.
Supplementary? Final supplementary, Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. The Minister mentioned that low number of businesses engaged with Institute of Director. Does the Minister accept that by dismissing concern as a rhetoric risk or smaller number of businesses further undermining confidence among businesses who are directly experiencing rising costs, labour shortages and regulatory pressure, and have Minister engage with Institute of Director, planning to engage with Institute Director to understand the feeling?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I reject the idea that I'm dismissing anything to do with this survey, sir. I take all surveys seriously, and as I said in my answer to Deputy Tadje, sir, there is a lack of statistical information for islanders and island business leaders to help them understand where the economy actually is, sir. And so any survey is helpful. And I thank the Institute of Directors for doing their survey, because I do think it is helpful. And so from that perspective, sir, I very much welcome the survey. I certainly do not dismiss it. All I am trying to say is that we in Jersey will continue to focus on trying to build confidence in Jersey's economy. And we do that, and we're doing that over the long term. As I said, it is not focused on always the short term, it is long-term matters. And so I do engage with the Institute of Directors regularly. We have had a rough drumbeat of kind of monthly or bi-monthly meetings over the past few years. I will continue to do so, though I must say that I haven't spoken to the Institute of Directors since this survey was issued, but I will do so in the very near future.
Thank you, Minister. Question 2, Deputy Coles will put to the Minister for Health and Social Services. Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister outline his reasonings for omitting psychotherapists from Schedule 1 of the draft Health and Social Care Professionals Register Law, otherwise known as P.102
Minister.
Sir, the introduction of the new law was only ever intended to include those professions that are subject to statutory regulation in the UK. Psychotherapists are not regulated by the Health and Care Professions Council, and there are no statutory national standards, qualifications, or fitness to practice requirements to which they could be aligned or against which they could be held to account. So local registration wouldn't enhance public protection, and to insist on it would simply create unnecessary red tape with no meaningful benefit to anyone. That said, should the UK introduce statutory regulation for psychotherapists in the future, the new law has been designed to allow them to be added very quickly and very easily, sir. Thank you.
Supplementary?
Yes, sir. Firstly, sir, does the Minister believe that the being tied so closely to the UK gives Jersey the ability to be flexible and agile in addressing concerns that come forward? And also, sir, does the Minister not be aware that psychotherapists actually exist in line 1 of Schedule 1, but have to be considered an arts psychotherapist? So is this actually balanced and just?
Minister.
Under all of the circumstances, I think it is balanced and just, and I've given my reasons in the first part of the answer to the question, sir, and I haven't really a great deal more to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Question 3, Deputy Renner will put to the Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. Further to written question 4, 2026, in relation to the High Value Residency Scheme, will the Chief Minister explain why the policy aspiration of 15 housing consents per year remains in place, given that consents have averaged 22 per year over the last decade, and advise whether that number of consents remains his preferred policy objective?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. When the scheme was established in the 1970s, the policy aspiration around 15 housing consents was intended to ensure stability and controlled growth. While arrivals have averaged a slightly higher figure in recent years at around 18 per year, the scheme remains modest in scale and carefully managed. Net growth is considerably lower than arrivals as some residents leave each year, with numbers increasing on average by only around 8 people per annum since the year 2016.
There are currently 233 net high-value residents paying approximately £33 million pounds in income tax each year, representing about 5% of our total income tax take. They also contribute through stamp duty on high-value property purchases, which exceeded £15 million in 2025, and through philanthropy, and with new applicants expected to give a minimum of £100,000 annually to local charities. And while many donations are made anonymously, it is estimated that tens of millions of pounds have been given to local charities and good causes over the years served by the high net worth community. Many also invest in local businesses, support startups and business growth, and contribute to skills, mentoring and voluntary work across the community. The objective is therefore not to meet a rigid numerical cap, but to maintain a balanced and sustainable level of arrivals for the reasons aforementioned, that delivers clear economic and social benefit without placing undue pressure on housing or public services, sir. The aspiration of around 15 housing consents a year, therefore, I believe remains an appropriate planning guide, with applications considered on their individual merits, sir, and always in the island's overall best interests. Thank you.
Supplementary?
Yes, sir. It seems from the Chief Minister's answer that in terms of the numbers, that he is relying on people, on HVRs leaving the island to compensate for arrivals in order to keep the overall size in check. So will he be encouraging high-value residents to leave in order to continue achieving this balance that he talks about, or would this expose the slight absurdity of the government's position in relying on a policy failure to justify consistently ignoring the 15 a year?
I think so. The Deputy is completely misrepresenting the position to suit his own view on the matter. I'm not sure what he is exactly trying to achieve through this course of questioning or by his forthcoming proposition, given the benefits we see. If we refer to the written question, sir, that I provided last week, we will see that on average over the last 10 years, 22 approvals per annum were given, of which 18 arrived, and the average of 10 high net worth leaving the scheme annually, which left a net increase of 8. So we know roughly over the last 10 years, for every approval we give, we have about a third actually arrive and settle and stay, sir, because as well as many new arrivals, some residents leave the island. Sadly, some residents pass away. Only a very small number, fewer than 5, I think, in the last 5 years have moved to entitled status through long residence, and anyone who does so has to give up their high-value residency tax status, sir. So it seems to me eminently sensible that we use the statistics we have over the last 10 years, and we know that for every 9, shall we say, approvals we give, the net high net worth community over here is only growing by about 3 annually, and those are the figures I think we need to be mindful of, sir.
Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. Can the Chief Minister outline what mechanisms exist to collect economic data away from just tax and duty that high-value residents bring to the island?
That's something I think we would be due to go into again. The last report, I think, was done by a major firm of accountants some 10 years ago, in approximately 2014 or 15. It's difficult to collate exact data because the high net worth community is such a small part of our overall community, 133 out of 105,000. We can collect obviously the tax details, the stamp duty on properties. We can make guesstimates of what they spend in the economy, though it's difficult to pinpoint that exactly. And it's also, as I mentioned before, the charitable and philanthropic contributions are often made anonymously. So it's quite difficult to give an exact position. I think it's something we could look at again in the future, but I will say with certainty, sir, that the small number of high net worth make a significant contribution to our community.
Supplementary?
Yes, sir. Given that high-value residents do not have to spend an entire day in Jersey once they've got their status, does that make it even harder to correlate how much they would actually spend even in our supermarkets, restaurants and bars?
Well, I'm not sure I know of any high net worth residents that spend less than a day in Jersey. We make it clear as part of the application process. We are looking for people to call Jersey their home. And I believe the vast majority of them do just that. Of course, I can't speak for all of them, sir, but some of the decisions and their residency and where they're domiciled will be a matter for themselves, sir. But I believe the vast majority of our high net worth community, some of whom have been here for decades, are calling Jersey their home, sir, and treating it as such.
Final supplementary, Deputy Renouf.
Thank you, sir. In the 1970s, 80s, 90s and 2000s, the average number of high-value residents arriving was in the 30s or slightly below. Since 2010, it's been over 150 per decade. So there's clearly been a big step jump. Does the Chief Minister have a view about whether there would ever be too many high-value residents in the island?
Chief Minister.
Well, so that's, the answer to that is possibly there could be, but right at the moment, there isn't. We have 233 high net worth out of 105,000 whose fiscal contribution is disproportionate to the number of them here. So yes, of course, we don't want to see thousands of that. We don't want to be in a position where we're impacting adversely upon the economy, but that will never happen, sir. Since the 1970s, I think the scheme has been very successful. It's helped to contribute towards Jersey's prosperity, sir. And as long as we continue to manage it carefully and manage the growth of the community, and that's how we should measure it, by the growth in the community, not by the number of applications we accept, because as we know, that's not really relevant to the what I'm trying to say is every approval we give doesn't result in a settlement, sir. So I think the answer to that is we have a good position at the moment and we need to maintain it as such, sir.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Question 4, Deputy Wilson, who's not here. Question 5, Deputy Andrews will put to the Minister for Social Security.
Thank you, sir. Further to the response to oral question 265/2025, will the Minister advise the cost of the Information Technology Transform Programme in the Employment, Social Security and Housing Department and provide details on the implementation of the programme and whether any additional costs are anticipated?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I have to admit I am a little bit perplexed by this question because the details of the overall costs are, of course, out there in the open in the budget documents. For clarity, the overall budget for this programme is 30.6 million. It is a large IT programme, and as such, I don't think it would be, I couldn't go through the Gantt chart I've got in front of me with regards to the implementation, but I'm happy to provide that in writing to the Assembly. With regard to any additional costs, no, there are no additional costs anticipated.
Supplementary. Deputy Curtis.
Thank you, sir. Just with the implementation, no doubt the Minister has been briefed on progress. Can she advise whether her team or the project team have shared whether they use AI and code assisting to speed up delivery and whether they've seen any improvement in the process given the wide proliferation of professional code assist technology that many professional organisations are deploying for their benefit and hopefully their customers?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I think that's rather an operational question rather than a political question, but I can say that I have asked the team to be very aware of learnings from other jurisdictions. I'm very aware of issues with regard to automated decision-making and the issues that led to in Australia. And I've asked the team that are working on this to make sure that they are delivering this programme in the most efficient, effective and modern manner, but also cognizant of any risks that may be taken with regard to using new technology as well.
Supplementary.
If I could, the Minister says it's operational. Could she confirm then that no briefing has explain that they have made any time saving or any efficiency saving in the delivery of the project because they have been able to use newer techniques to improve productivity within the project?
Minister.
That's not a briefing that I have had so far. We have a political oversight group planned in the coming week, I believe. We are always pressing the team to ensure that they are delivering this programme in the most efficient and effective way possible. We do provide political oversight, but we are not running this programme on an operational level. We are making the political decisions. It would be incorrect for me to take decisions around the right technology or the wrong technology on the basis that I simply don't have the technical expertise or experience, and I need to rely and trust in the officers that are working on this programme.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank you. Would the Minister advise if the timeline is as expected and it would be delivered on time, or there are delays?
Minister.
Sir, there is a phased delivery. We couldn't possibly implement all of the delivery at once. The timeline is as expected, and as I said in my answer to the initial question, I'm quite happy to give the Assembly a written response, because I think it is so detailed and it does cut across a number of phases over the next few years. So I think that that would be a more appropriate way of answering such questions.
Supplementary. Thank you, Minister. Question 6, Deputy Alex Curtis will ask the Minister for the Environment. Deputy Alex Curtis.
Thank you, sir. In relation to the Slaughter of Animals Jersey 1962 law, will the Minister advise the number of licences issued under Article 4, prohibition of slaughter and stunning except by a licensed slaughterer of the law, and will he further advise whether his department allow for licences for slaughter and consumption under Article 5, exceptions, and if not, why not?
Minister.
Sir, the law dates back to 1962, and in the short period of time I haven't been able to get the number for the number of licences issued since that time. But what I can say to the Deputy is that no licences have been issued other than to licensed slaughtermen in the abattoir in the last 2 years. I can further say to him that the department allows licences for slaughter and consumption under Article 5, but that we have not had any applications under exemptions either.
Supplementary.
Yes, sir. Article 5 allows for slaughter outside of the abattoir as long as it's only for personal consumption. Does the Minister agree that the preferred approach for most should be to take their animals to the abattoir for slaughter, even if it is for home consumption, but that retaining the right to slaughter at home ensures pressure on the abattoir to remain value for money and provide a quality service, as I'm sure we all agree it currently does?
Minister.
So our abattoir does provide good value for money, especially in a small jurisdiction like we have. It's of high quality, and I absolutely agree with the Deputy that regardless of where it's being consumed, it's far preferable to have animals slaughtered at the abattoir under proper welfare conditions, under proper conditions to remove dangerous material that might be in the animal and under the food hygiene law. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Minister. Question 7, Deputy Ward will put to the Minister for Housing. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise what evidence, if any, his department has collected to demonstrate the impact of the right-sizing policy published in May 2024, including how many islanders have benefited from this policy since it was introduced, and if no such evidence has been collected, will he explain why?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. The right-sizing policy has multiple different angles to it, and the policy document itself has performance indicators towards the end which show how the different aspects of it may be measured. But what I can tell the Deputy that we are aware of when it comes to providing new right-sizing homes. There have been 36 right-sizing appropriate homes approved through the planning process and a further 14 pending, so that's 50 in total, and I've no doubt that some of that has come about as a result of the heightened focus there's been on the subject because of that policy. I can confirm that Antium, Jersey Homes Trust and Laveau Housing Trust have developed their right-sizing policies, which I've supported with them. And since the policy was introduced, 81 households who were under-occupying social housing properties have now downsized.
Supplementary?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank the Minister for his answer. Does the Minister therefore consider it to be a success? I understand there are a number of issues around when an application is means tested, around giving up full home ownership. There are a number of criteria which limit the ability for people to right size. Does the Minister consider that the policy is correct? Are there any adjustments he can see going forward to improve on the policy?
Minister.
I'm not sure what the Deputy was referring to when he referred to criteria there, because as I said, the policy focuses on this from multiple different angles. One thing, sir, that I think is probably going to help with the delivery of the right-sizing policy has been as a result of the decision that the Assembly made in the recent budget debate, thanks to an amendment from Deputy Coles, to introduce a right-sizing stamp duty incentive. I think that's going to help with the whole picture of this and hopefully lead to that benefiting more people.
Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. The Minister just mentioned the stamp duty incentive. Obviously, the 2024 right-sizing policy was quite restricted by this. Does he now expect to see this policy be expanded to include a lower stamp duty rate for right-sizing?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I wonder if the Deputy is referring to some kind of version 2 or addendum to the policy that takes into account that. I think that would clearly make sense. The budget amendment that the Deputy lodged was approved, but the outcome from it hasn't been achieved yet because the amendment did give a timeline in order to do that. So it would make sense if we were to produce some addendum or version 2 of that right-sizing policy that we align it with the introduction of that incentive when it comes about. But that does sound like a sensible idea.
Supplementary? Final supplementary, Deputy Ward.
No, thank you, sir.
Thank you. And question 8, Deputy Jehan will put to the Minister for the Environment. Deputy Jehan.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister explain the rationale for reducing the bird registration threshold from 30 to 1 under Article 4.1a of the Animal Health, Bird Diseases Jersey Order 2017, thereby imposing an immediate legal obligation on all poultry keepers, including small-scale and domestic keepers?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. So the number of confirmed outbreaks of avian influenza in the UK and France in poultry and captive birds is of concern to me. There's been 112 outbreaks in France since October last year, with more than 1.8 million animals dead or culled, and 90 confirmed outbreaks in the UK. The island needs to be prepared for any outbreaks, and it's important that States Vet has at this time a database of all poultry and captive bird keepers. Registration ensures authorities know where birds are kept, regardless of flock size, so they can act quickly when disease is detected. Being able to speak to all owners, sir, in very quick order is a benefit not only to the States Vet, but to the owners of that poultry.
Supplementary?
Yes, sir, thank you. What assessment did the Minister make on how the amendment was communicated, and how will the Minister ensure future urgent changes are clearly and promptly conveyed to avoid unintentional non-compliance?
Minister.
I'm very happy to do that, sir. I'd like to apologise to people. Previous to 2017, it was mandatory that all chickens should be registered. The rules were relaxed at that date, and it occurred to me that it wouldn't be very contentious to go back to where we were for the animal health reasons I've mentioned. Consequently, I signed an order in December. The timing wasn't great. The 14 days after that included Christmas, and before we knew where we were, the order had been enacted. So I'd like to apologise to those people who were a bit surprised by that. It's my fault entirely, but as the Deputy says, I will take much more notice in the future with this type of order.
Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister believe that the order and details within this are clear enough for people so they don't, and I'm really sorry for the pun, so they don't fall foul of this legislation.
Minister.
My brain doesn't allow me to respond with a quip, so, but I would say I think it's important. I think everybody needs to be involved in this. If you've got 1 chicken, 5 chickens, 10, 15, 20, we all need to know where these animals are, and I think it's a good idea.
Supplementary?
Yes, sir. This next question comes more because if you ever go to the parish of Grooville, so the last time I was there, I counted about 15 feral peacocks that seem to take residence in people's gardens. And so the question is where does the responsibility lie around these birds? Because obviously they sort of choose their area that they live in. That might be in somebody's garden. Now, would they then be considered its keeper because that peacock spends a considerable amount of its time in that garden? And if so, sir, is there a way to amend this register?
So feral chickens, poultry and other birds are a challenge on the island. We're certainly aware of a number of groups of feral chickens, and we can take action where necessary. But wild birds obviously are a real challenge and don't fall under this legislation. However, the peacocks the Deputy mentions, it may well be that under certain conditions the State's Vet would decide to act, but it's not usual.
Alex Curtis.
Thank you, sir. This obviously is a new reporting requirement for the new, at least for the last 10 years, for islanders who could have as few as 1 chicken. Did the Minister consider whether the processes for those who have to declare are easy enough, and whether he should have made any digital process changes to make it easier for people to file this, so it's not a more bureaucratic process for those with a very small impact or perhaps a very controllable number of poultry or similar?
I have to hold my hand up, sir, and say that I didn't delve deeply into this subject when I was requested by the State's Vet to consider making this order. I will go back and see how easy it is for people to register, and certainly in this day and age, I would fully expect people to be able to do that online.
Supplementary. Final supplementary, Deputy Jehan.
Thank you, sir. Could the Minister outline what are the consequences for those who have to register if they do not register, and could the Minister outline what are the how this will be enforced in practice, particularly domestic keepers who are unaware of the change, or, for example, what Deputy Coles was talking about chickens and poultry going into gardens and become residents without having an ownership?
Minister.
So this is not about trying to criminalise somebody with 2 chickens in their back garden who may have missed this announcement and haven't had them registered. It's more about trying to encourage people to comply with the law. We're not running around the island making sure that every last chicken has been registered in the last few weeks. But this is about trying to get owners of chickens to help each other, to act responsibly, so that, as I said, if we do have a situation with avian flu in Jersey, the vet can contact all the owners, and it's for their benefit as much as the State's Vet's benefit.
Thank you, Minister. Question 9, Deputy Gardner, will put to the Chief Minister. Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. In light of the current geopolitical uncertainties and the importance of food security, energy resilience, and the island's transport links, will the Chief Minister advise what steps, if any, the government has taken to strengthen Jersey's preparedness for unforeseen events, including disruption to supply chain, and if no steps have been taken, will he explain why?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. The government has taken a number of practical steps to strengthen Jersey's resilience to potential disruption affecting food security, energy supply and transport links. Emergency preparedness is coordinated through the Emergency Planning Team and the Jersey Resilience Forum, which brings together 27 partner organisations to plan for, respond to and recover from major incidents. We maintain close working relationships with UK government departments, regional resilience forums and military liaison officers to ensure we are sighted on emerging risks and can escalate issues quickly where needed. Our planning is underpinned by the Jersey Emergency Risk Register. That's aligned to the UK National Security and Risk Assessment, which identifies the island's most significant risks and drives contingency planning. We have also established an energy resilience working group, are responding to recommendations on critical national infrastructure and progressing proposals for a new resilience law to strengthen governance and accountability. In addition, steps have been taken to protect supply chains and connectivity, including strengthened ferry service arrangements and ongoing work on energy security as part of the island's developing energy strategy. Together, sir, these measures reflect an active and ongoing programme to ensure Jersey is better prepared for both anticipated and unforeseen events. Thank you.
Parliamentary.
Yes. Will the Chief Minister advise whether the government has assessed how long essential food, fuel and medical supplies could be maintained in the event of prolonged disruption to sea or air links, and what are contingency?
Chief Minister.
Yes, so those considerations are looked at periodically, so I can't give the exact details of the latest estimates on that figure, sir, but I can assure members they are constantly reviewed.
Deputy Kovac.
Thank you, sir. As the Chief Minister said that the most significant risks are assessed, what specific risks have been identified as the most significant to the island?
Chief Minister.
Well, sir, I don't think I have time to identify all of them, but we are constantly working with quite a large risk register which is categorised into risks depending on the prevailing circumstances and geopolitical situations at the time. So I can't be specific, but I'm happy to share risk registers with members, sir.
Parliamentary.
Yes, please, and I will appreciate if that could be shared. And how often are emergency preparedness plans reviewed and tested in that sense?
Chief Minister.
I would just say regularly, sir. I don't think there's a set timetable. The emergency forum meets forums and the groups meet regularly, consistently, and that culminates in emergency councils meetings when emergencies are declared or further action is required. But I can assure members that all known risks are constantly monitored, sir, and careful consideration is given, sir, in the hopefully unlikely times we might need to step in, sir. Of course, we learnt a lot from recent incidents. We learnt a lot during COVID, and we learnt a lot from the very sad events we had following COVID in relation to Lacoon, sir, and the Haute de Mont situation.
Jehan.
Thank you, sir. And the Chief Minister mentioned a number of groups and responsibilities and areas that it's being looked at under this, but could the Chief Minister clarify where clear ministerial responsibility now sits for overall island resilience and how progress is being monitored as a whole of government level?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. The overall responsibility sits with the Council of Ministers. I chair my role as Chief Minister of the Emergencies Council, a number of the groups. The Emergency Councils, off the top of my head, consist of economy, infrastructure, health, Chief Minister, Home Affairs, as I believe it. Thank you.
Parliamentary, Deputy Jehan.
Thank you, sir. And specifically, we've heard from the Chief Minister before about this particular resilience law that he mentioned as well. Will the Chief Minister, as the head of this ministerial responsibility, be bringing this law anytime soon? And could you give a timeline, please?
Chief Minister.
I can't at the moment, sir, but I'm due for an update this month, so I'm happy to keep members posted.
Deputy Guard, a final supplementary.
Absolutely. Since the Chief Minister cited that we responded to COVID and the other incidents that we had, can the Chief Minister identify what specific changes, one or two changes, have been implemented since those incidents to strengthen our preparedness.
Chief Minister.
Yes, sir, I would allude the Deputy to some of the details I gave in my original answer, sir. Including, I think, sir, more regular meetings of the political groups that I mentioned, and of course the considerable unseen work. I'm sorry, I'll give way if the Deputy is confused.
Now the question was, can the Chief Minister present specific change, what happened in our preparedness based on the lessons learned during the COVID and managing other incidents?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question, sir. Standards of what?
What specific changes have been introduced post-COVID?
I can't list all of those off the top of my head, sir, but I would be happy to invite the Deputy to come into the office where I'd happy run through all the work that's going on, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Question 10, Deputy Jehan will put to the Chair of the Comité des Connétable. Deputy Jehan.
Thank you, sir. In relation to the Animal Welfare and Control Scrutiny Review and the presentation to the Committee de Connétables of options regarding seasonal restrictions on dogs on beaches by the Minister for Sustainable Economic Development in 2024, will the Chair advise what consideration was given to the options presented, whether any public or parish consultation took place, and detail what evidence or views informed the Committee's position?
Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, sir. The Deputy asks an oft-repeated question in this chamber, but I'm pleased to answer the specific questions he asked at this stage. The Comité initiated the exchange of correspondence with the Minister for Sustainable Economic Development about the policing of beaches, Regulations 1959, following its meeting in May of 2024. We'd noted the petition on the States Assembly website to create dedicated dog-friendly beaches throughout the summer months and invited the Minister to a meeting in June or July 2024 to discuss the issues. The Minister was unable to attend to that point, but following the petition having reached 1,000 signatures, he wrote to us on the 3rd of September setting out some options for taking proposed legislative changes forward. He also responded to the petition on the 10th of September, saying he'd written to seek the Comité's views. We considered the proposals at our meeting on the 16th of September and replied that it was unable to support any of the options as proposed. We didn't receive a children's rights impact assessment from the Minister, and so we didn't undertake any public or parish consultation at that time, but I'd be happy to expand if required. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary.
Yes, sir. How does the committee evaluate whether the current restrictions continue to reflect the needs and expectations of island residents?
Chair.
Thank you, sir. Well, there were three elements of the proposals as put by the Minister, and one was to designate a specific beach to allow for dogs to be walked off the lead at any time. And this is one element, I think, where the public have views. The constables have a pretty good feel of what goes on in their parishes. Some parishes have more beaches than others, and I'm probably one of those. Some parishes have very limited beaches, and I refer to the Constable of St Saviour. But we know what goes on the beaches. We get all the feedback from the public, whether it's the requirement to extend the hours are open at all the beaches, whether it's to do with hours, or whether it's actually to do with the policing of the beaches. So in terms of our situation, as the Deputy mentions, we were consultees to the Minister's inquiry, and our response to the first question to designate a specific beach to allow for dogs to be walked off the lead was that it wasn't supported, and that was dictated by a number of factors which we are well aware of. It's not only about other users of the beach, it's about the tourism season, it's about the weather, it's about signage, and it's about policing. So there are lots of factors. In terms of the change of start time for dog walking restrictions from 10:30 to 11:30, there was, amongst the 12 councillors who were present at that meeting, there was limited support for altering the start times, though if this was considered, the view was that it should be to 11 a.m. and not 11:30. However, such a change would incur considerable cost to change all signage, and so that mustn't be underestimated. And I'm sure the Council of St Wands will confirm that the change in speed limit signage can end up costing £30,000 quite easily. This has to come from somewhere. And the third point the Minister made was to remove the current restrictions on weekdays during May, leaving restrictions for weekdays and public holidays. This was considered to be too confusing, as there are several public holidays in May and the school half-term, so it was not supported. I say so for my part, as a regular dog walker at La Poulante. I think the risk more is to public barbecues and sausages on barbecues, which certainly wouldn't be safe when a lot of dogs are walking on the beach, and that's something some dogs who have limited recall will struggle to contend with. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Dr. Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. The chair of the committee mentioned an issue of cost. I note that there are 10,050 dogs at the last count on the island, each paying £10 for a licence, which raises £100,000 and £500. Is that not a source of money that could be put towards something specifically for dog owners?
Chair.
I think that could well be the case. One of the concerns about signage, and I think the Transport Minister will say that there is such a thing as sign blindness, and however many signs we put up, will they be adhered to? I suspect not, and even that's the case now from a policing point of view. Whilst there is signage out there, it is really difficult to police. The public don't tend to look at these things. So I think it is an issue of education to dog owners. 10,420 was the latest calculation, to be accurate. But of course there are far more numbers than that of people who use the beaches without a dog. And it's a question of getting a balance. And I would say from the committee point of view, so we continue to receive any views from anyone, and whether there should be any changes, which I say personally I would support some, but not all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I thank the chair of the committee for the answer. Are we not pointing, therefore, towards perhaps that money, the time has come to employ dog wardens who have an educational role, who have an enforcement role, and have a role to ensure that good owners are supported, and those who aren't perhaps complying could be directed in the right way so that they can? So is that considered by the committee, to use that money to employ dog wardens across the island? Thank you, sir.
Chair. Thank you, sir. I know the Deputy has brought up this point before, and it has been considered. The practicality is not easy, or the result is not easy to achieve in practical terms. We have, amongst each parish is our honorary police service, and actually the police are very good at picking up miscreants. To police miscreants involves very often some sort of identification. Well, if we get an identification, say a black Labrador, well, we can go on our parish systems and investigate that, and fair chance if we get we can identify a series of owners who may own that dog. The easiest identification comes from the identification of a J number on a car, and that can be tracked back. And I have to say, so this does happen. The biggest issue, I think, probably, which it aligns almost to the Deputy's question, is dog attacks, dog on dog. Sometimes a difficult thing to apply. Going back to the point of dog wardens, how do we do that? So a dog warden is going to cost, I don't know, 30,000, 40,000 a year. That will make that could be provided for within the dog licence fees. I wouldn't argue that, and it's something that we can take to the committee and consider and report back. Happy to do that, sir.
Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. The chairman of the committee mentions obviously that people use the beaches and other things, but there's also the factor of migratory birds and nesting birds. These are also things that need to be considered when making any policy about dogs being off lead. As the chair has also mentioned that not all dogs have excellent recall, sir. Would he commit that the committee will keep this in mind when making any decisions?
Chair.
Thank you, sir. Yes, in fact, we have taken advice from the state's vet in terms of the point the Deputy makes. And many Jersey beaches support shorebirds and migratory waders that use the intertidal zones for feeding and resting. And off-lead dogs can disturb these species, causing them to flee repeatedly, expending extra energy or abandoning young. So this risk increases if dogs are allowed off-lead year-round or with further relaxed off-lead walking during summer months and nesting season. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary?
Yes, sir. The recently published Marine Spatial Plan has an article in that does require a review of dogs on beaches as part of that. Will the committee be committing to a full contribution to this before it gets published?
Chair.
Yes, sir, I believe we should to hear from all parties who use the beaches, and I suspect the review will come back fairly well balanced. Thank you, sir.
Final supplementary, Deputy Jehan.
Thank you, sir. And from the Chair's answer earlier, I believe no consultation was done specifically to support the response to the Minister in 2024. So could the Chair clarify how the committee was able to reach its position without seeking the public's input, and will the committee in the future do a consultation especially related to the Marine Spatial Plan and request to actually look at the beaches law more in depth in the future?
Chair.
Thank you, sir. I think it's fair to say that the committee were consultees to the Economic Development Minister's questions. As I repeat what I said before, the constables are well versed in what goes on in their parishes. Notwithstanding that, I think a way forward is to initiate feedback from the public in whatever form works best, and I'm sure the committee would be happy to do that, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Question 11, Deputy Renouf, will put to the Minister for the Environment. Deputy Renouf.
Thank you, sir. Further to the extension of the island's network of marine protected areas, as set out in the Marine Spatial Plan, and following the lodging of P.18 2026, will the Minister explain the reasons for the phasing of the implementation of the MPA network and any changes to the boundaries?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. So over the course of December and January recently, the Government of Jersey Marine Resources team held meetings with fishermen and fishing committees both in Jersey, Normandy and Brittany. Those organisations were asked to share verbally or submit in writing their concerns and recommendations relating to the latest marine protected area proposals. Recommendations to modify the MPAs were received in writing from the French and on paper from the Jersey Mobile GARE Working Group. I gave consideration to these proposals, and based on these submissions and information, economic information, that was reported to me in December, I proposed the various changes to the MPAs. That's a small change of the northwest of the Minkies, permanently removed from protection, 0.27% of the total territorial water. A very small change north of Grone, 0.06% of the our territorial water to be removed from protection, and the phasing of an area to the southeast corner, sir, equivalent to 0.86% of our territorial water, which will come back into protection in 2030.
Supplementary.
Yes, so my understanding was that there were three areas that were phased. I wonder whether, I saw the Minister could publish a map which made these clear, because it's not in the proposition. But these areas that have been put down for phased protection, the Department's own surveys have confirmed that these are sensitive habitat-rich areas that need protection. Therefore, how is the Minister going to ensure that now he has delayed protection until 2030 in those areas, they don't just get dredged to destruction over the next 4 years, thereby negating the whole point of protection?
Minister.
So can I first clear up the issue over the three-phased area? The Deputy is quite correct. There are three-phased areas. I have, the first two were proposed for phasing some time ago when I first came into office, and this last phased area to the southeast of the island is one I proposed recently. But those three areas all come into full protection in 2030. So this has, the final lines for protection for marine protected areas has been a very difficult project to come to fruition. I've had to balance environmental protection, I've had to balance the future of the fishing fleets both here and locally and in France. And while we started by looking at the amount of time various boats spent in those areas recently, we've also had commissioned some economic work to show the value to some boats of being able to fish in these particular areas of our waters. And I've had to take that into account as well. The case for immediate cessation of fishing in all these areas was made quite strongly by the French and by the local fleets. And I had to perform a balancing act where they asked me for areas to be removed from protection, some of which I've granted, some of which I haven't. And I accept that I will be criticised by the environmentalists who think I should have done more, but I also will be criticised by the fishermen who think I should have done more as well. I hope so that I've reached a good balance here, one that will be accepted by both sides while not being particularly happy. But I think it's important, vital, as we move towards having a fishery in our territorial waters which is sustainable, that we have to make sure that we have fishing boats that are still profitable and still in business when we actually get to that point.
Deputy Jehan.
Thank you, sir. Could the Minister explain the criteria he used to determine which areas of seabed would be protected, given that research commissioned by at his request identified high density of merle in certain areas, specifically in the southeast corner, that he is proposing to be left open to dredging until 2030?
Yes, sir.
So I looked at lots of data when coming to this conclusion, and one of the pieces of data we looked at was not only the amount of financial contribution to a French fishing business, but more importantly, the percentage of time that fishing boats spent in particular areas. And I felt right at the outset we had decided to phase some areas where it was made, the case was made for certain boats that spent over 20% of their time in a particular area. We then had to be consistent and apply that to other vessels. I then had to balance that against the research work that I commissioned when I became Minister, the results of which showed that certainly some areas around our coast were very high in merle. And what I've done, sir, I hope, but I certainly am confident that in certain areas, there's an area very close to the 3 mile limit, outside the 3 mile limit, close to our territorial limit, where the merle is very good, and I have said that's going to remain protected. There's a certain area closer to Jersey Shore where there was less merle found, less than 5% viable, and I've allowed those areas to be continued to fish until 2030 when they will come into full protection. So it's a balancing act where boats fish a lot, where they make a lot of money and their business would be threatened if they were removed immediately. I have allowed some phasing, but only in areas where the levels of merle have been reduced to other areas where I have allowed the continuation of full protection.
Supplementary? Final supplementary, Dr. Renouf.
Yes, sir, I understand that there's a balancing act needed, but I don't think the Minister answered my supplementary question earlier, which is that the effect of this will be to ensure that dredging is intensified to make maximum use of that 4-year window, thereby potentially rendering the areas almost worthless in terms of protection. Does he consider that this, the risk of this happening is worth what it seems to be a political negotiation with France to keep the French happy?
Minister.
So it's always been my intention to try to work with the local fishermen and work with the French fishermen in Normandy and Brittany to work together to come to an agreement. That was never going to be an easy thing to do, and I accept the criticism that by closing some areas and not others, those areas which will remain to be dredged for the next 4 years may well get exploited more greatly than they are currently. It is a balancing act. I would say to the Deputy, I can't keep everybody happy. I can't keep anybody happy in this particular regard. But what I can do is say to the Deputy that we have in Jersey marine protected areas which are properly protected by law. He will know that, unlike other jurisdictions. We're moving from 6% to 21.7% on the 1st of September, and then adding a few more percent in 2030. We have done great things protecting our territorial waters. We are doing great things protecting our territorial waters, and we will do better things in the future to protect both the fishing fleet and the marine environment. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Minister. I'll move on to questions without notice. And the first Minister to receive questions is the Minister for Infrastructure. First question, is that for you, Constable Trinity? Yes, Constable.
Thank you, sir. The Minister's Department currently have some major drainage schemes underway, and as a consequence, large volumes of heavy goods vehicles are being moved onto parish roads. And these roads were designed to take this sort of volume and weight of traffic that we're now being imposed on us. And the consequence of that is that they are starting to suffer. And this is going to go on for several months. And I wondered if the Minister has any provision within his budget to instigate some repairs to reduce the burden on my ratepayers, some of whom don't actually even have the benefit of a mains drainage connection. So thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Perhaps I should answer the last part of that question first, sir. The works are designed to ensure that more people can enjoy mains drains, sir. And we have hundreds of properties in the north of the island that currently aren't connected to mains drains that should be. They're alongside main roads in some cases, sir. So the work is going to take longer than the Constable suggests. It's more than months, sir. There's another full year to go of disruption for people who live in or adjacent to those roadworks, sir. So the Constable, I'm sure, will be aware that the department have already helped with some minor repairs on some roads, sir, and we'll continue to keep dialogue with the parishes that are affected, sir. And I would just like to thank the community for their tolerance, sir, so far, and I'd ask for their tolerance for the next 12 months. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary.
Thank you, sir.
Deputy Renouf.
Thank you, sir. A few weeks ago, I asked about Le Creux and the process for Le Creux, and it's on. The process for the preferred bidder for Le Creux. I wonder if he could update us, and in particular say how long he is prepared to give the existing preferred, I don't know if he uses the word bidder, but preferred bidder, to meet the requirements that he outlined a few weeks ago before perhaps moving on.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. So I had hoped to meet with the representatives of the St. Billards before the next sitting, not realising that the sitting was this week and not next week. So I apologise to my colleagues for that, sir. So I have had some updates, sir, and I have to say I'm disappointed with the update I've received, and so I would expect to be making some form of decision, sir, by the end of this week, and I will update all parties involved. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary. No,
sir. I'll leave it.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister update about progress that was made on development the first tower playing field?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. So you can be sure of tax, death, and a question from Deputy Gardner about first tower, sir. Sir, the progress is slow, sir. Unfortunately, the landowner is currently not able to engage with us, sir. The department has continued, though, to look at the feasibility, the accessibility, the environmental aspects, and we look forward to engaging both with the landowner, and once we've done that successfully, engaging with the school and the community to ensure that we have a facility that is fit for both educational and community needs. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary.
Grateful for the response. Would the Minister indicate would it happen in this term, or he expect that it will continue into the next term?
Minister.
So I would certainly hope that the landowner is well enough during this term, sir, but I wouldn't like to give an assurance that that is going to be the case, sir. We are in informal dialogue, sir, I believe, but we need to wait for the landowner to be able to engage with us, sir. Thank you.
Deputy War.
Thank you, sir. And in headlines in the paper today talk about hospital delays, spark review of plans for Kensington Place. Favourite question of mine to the Minister, I think back in 2024 and then in September 2025, and that is, why is it not possible to therefore develop the site as a meanwhile use car park to help the businesses in that area?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I've also read the Jersey Evening Post today, sir, and that's where I pick up some information, not all a bit reliable, sir, but I will be talking to my colleague from Health, sir, after the sitting is finished to see if something can be done, sir. We tried to do something before Christmas, but we weren't able to do so, and we'll try again. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary.
I feel reassured by that. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Miles.
Thank you, sir. Regarding the answer that the Minister gave about LECRA, he said he was disappointed. Given that this process has been going on for nearly 2 years with absolutely no community consultation and no positive outcome, does the Minister have confidence that Jersey Property Holdings have the knowledge, skill and experience to lead expressions of interest processes for community projects?
Minister. So I think, thank the Deputy for her question. So I think we've learnt lessons, as I've said in this chamber before, sir, about the Hovde Park experience, sir, and we're certainly learning lessons here, sir. So people are doing their very best, sir. They're working incredibly hard. They aren't able to dedicate time to all the projects in front of them, sir. We have got a challenge on our hands, and we've got to be thorough, sir, and I'm going to review what's happened here. I said in the last sitting, I believe, that I think we should go for a whole process with some external support, sir, and that's my firm belief now. Thank you.
Supplementary. Deputy Alex Curtis.
Thank you, sir. In recent weeks, a business has started promoting a local soil improver that they are selling, and their posts confirm it's produced by the Green Waste site. The branding in such images shows the Government of Jersey brand. For the benefit of the public, can the Minister confirm if this business has any affiliation with his department and whether it has any right to use a government brand?
Minister.
Sir, I thank the Deputy for bringing this to my attention, sir. Sir, I will confirm that the company that is promoting these goods have got no endorsement from the Government of Jersey, sir. They have no right to use the Government of Jersey's name. They have no right to use the Government of Jersey address, sir. They've received no discount for their purchase. They would pay the same as you and I, sir. And I've got officers on the case this morning, sir. Thank you.
Supplementary. Thomas and Brillard.
Thank you, sir. The Minister will be aware of the long, sad, sorry tale of the nude food dunes restaurant construction. Would he agree that as a result of perhaps poor advice going back from his predecessors and property holdings going back some time and unenforceable conditions put on the site, would he agree to get round a table, sir, and discuss how the drainage issues can be overcome, how the property issue, ownership, properties details can be dealt with, so that the place can be opened as a functioning restaurant as soon as possible? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
In short, sir, yes. Sir, I received some correspondence last week requesting a meeting, sir, and I've asked officers to arrange for that meeting to take place. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary.
I thank the Minister, sir.
So on the question of new dunes, does would the Minister be wary of being subject to undue lobbying? We're dealing with a site here which is in private ownership, sir, which does have obligations which the Government of Jersey has failed to enforce, and that whilst the owner is going around trying to contact as many states members as possible, including ministers, that it's important that to note that there's also been a change of use which prohibits it from being used as a cafe, which the owner has sought, sir. So any suggestion that the site wants to be used as a cafe should actually be taken with a pinch of salt. Is that the Minister's understanding as well?
Sir, I have to say, sir, I'm aware of some of that lobbying, sir, but my focus, sir, is on providing toilet facilities for the public, sir. I'm not involved in the planning part of any application, sir, so my responsibility is to ensure that we can get public access to toilets. Thank you.
Supplementary?
Yeah. Could the Minister inform us whether the encroachment that currently has been subject to enforcement on the new June site is still in place, or has it been removed? And does the Minister think it's appropriate for ministers to engage if it is the case that there are still planning obligations which have not been complied with?
Minister.
Sir, unfortunately, I'm not aware of the position of the encroachment, sir, so I'll have to come back to the Deputy. Thank you.
Deputy Jehan.
Thank you, sir. And following on from the Constable of Trinity's question regarding the long-term drainage works and the long-term diversion routes into parish lanes, it was a bit confusing in the answer the Minister gave. Who is responsible for maintaining and repairing those lanes, especially when lanes are being used that are not designed or suitable for the volume and weight of traffic that is currently at and sustained at?
Minister. I believe it's quite clear, sir, that the parishes are responsible for the by-roads and the government are responsible for the main roads. What we've done so far, sir, is taken a pragmatic approach and offered assistance where we felt we could, sir, but that's not a commitment to continue doing that, sir. It's a commitment to continue to ensure that traffic can pass through those roads. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary?
Thank you, sir. I'm just wondering, because this will be a year-long diversion, and the Minister has talked about that, and I have seen with my own eyes some of the small potholes starting to be filled in, but they've also started to erode again within a week. So I don't think the quality of the repairing is particularly well done. So I was wondering how long this commitment to prepare to fix small holes will continue until the diversion is finished.
Minister.
Sir, there are different types of repairs that can be done to roads, sir. You can plug a hole, you can fully repair a hole, you can reinstate a part of the road, sir. And the team are working with the parishes, sir, to try and do our best with them, sir. The by-roads remain the responsibility of the parishes, sir, and we are trying to take a reasonable approach, sir. This work will accommodate around about a fifth of the island pumping stations, as far west as St Mary's and as far east as the Zoo, sir. So it's a considerable amount of volume that goes down St John's Main Road to Ballazan, sir. We're going to double the capacity and be able to join up homes that haven't enjoyed mains drains for decades and new homes as well, sir. Thank you.
Deputy Stevenson.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister provide an update on the project to redesign and redevelop FB Fields?
Minister.
Thank the Deputy for her question, sir. So the focus at the FB Fields, sir, we're working with the Table Tennis Association, sir, to get them back into their homes. So it's over 2 years since they were forced out due to Storm Kieran. There's been no further formal works done on that area at the moment. Thank you.
Supplementary. Please, sir. FB Fields would be one of the key sites for hosting a future island games. What assurances can the Minister give that the island will have the right facilities to host in future, and indeed is it still the plan for the island to bid to host?
Minister. Thanks, I'm delighted to confirm that certainly is still the plan to host, sir, and that the FB would form a major part of that, sir, with athletics. So what we need to do, sir, is find a resolution for cricket, first of all, sir, and that's where our focus of attention has been, to give cricket an international size pitch. We're in the top 30 in the world, sir. We need to give the cricket players the relevant opportunities to play. And then once the cricket is resolved, sir, then we'll be able to do some detailed work on the FB. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Kovac.
Thank you, sir. Can the Minister give an update on the project development on the safer routes to school for San Xavier? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. So I understand we were due to meet with representatives of St Saviour recently, sir, to talk about the detailed projects. There has been significant work undertaken, sir, and there's still significant work to do, and I look forward to that detailed briefing with officers and members. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary? No? Constable Trinity.
Thank you, sir. Could I just ask the Minister to expand on the answer he gave just now about the extent that the drainage system will be improved in the north of the island with the works currently undergoing? Because my inquiries of the department for those residents in Trinity who don't enjoy mains drainage connection is that there's still another 500 metres of drainage in St John's Main Road, or the Grand Route de Saint-Jean, that will be required before we can bring on the pumping station at Villa-l'Evêque and the pumping station at the zoo.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. There's probably more than a kilometre, sir, that we need to do, sir, because we need to not stop at Zion, sir, but go up as far as Hope Kwa, sir. Sir, I'm not sure of the details of each pumping station and how they connect, sir, but properties in Trinity, I'm sure will be able to connect to some of the works that have been done. But further work will be needed in local areas, sir, to extend the mains drains in the local area. Sir, this work we're doing is an enabler, sir, so that more homes can join. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. That brings that period of questions to an end. Now I move the second period of questions to the Minister for International Development. Deputy Chairman.
Thank you, sir. As the Jersey Overseas Aid 5 years strategic plan concludes in 2026, could the Minister outline what arrangements will be put in place to provide an objective assessment of JOA's impact and value for money, and will this include an independent review to inform the development of the next strategy?
Minister.
Thank you. The short answer to that is yes. We've already explored an independent external evaluation and we'll be conducting that now to set in train the preparation for our strategic plan, which will need to be rewritten, as the Deputy says, from 2027 to 2031.
Supplementary.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister believe that the themes that Jersey Overseas Aid has developed over the last 5 years, in some cases extremely well, will be continued and looked at as an important part of the future strategic plan moving forward?
Minister.
Personally, I'd like to see them continue. I think the chosen themes add value to our projects. As I've said many times, it's not only about giving the finance, we also can add to that by giving our expertise that we have here on island with conservation livelihoods, dairy and financial inclusion. Personally, I would possibly extend those themes to include climate considerations, but that would need to be explored with the new Commission.
Deputy Catherine Curtis.
Thank you, sir. Considering that 2025 has been a challenging year internationally, what would the Minister say have been her best achievements?
Minister.
Well, if I could highlight a few. I had a meeting with UN World Food Programme when we were very concerned about getting aid into Gaza. So participating in a bilateral meeting like that was an achievement. We co-chaired the UN OCHA Pool Fund Working Group here, which attracted a host of international delegates to the island. We also hosted the START Network, again, attracting a lot of international delegates to the island. I met on Teams, it's got to be said, Deputy Strachan from Guernsey after their elections to try and forge a working relationship with them and to share insights and our approach to international development. We've engaged over 1,000 islanders young people in schools with our partners, and deployed 38 volunteers in our community work projects.
Minister, we're not quorate, so forgive me
Right.
for a moment. We'll get some more members into the Assembly.
Just a matter of interest, could I ask how many members have joined online today?
Just one, apparently. Yes, Minister. You can continue.
Well, the only thing I was going to add to that is, and it doesn't count specifically for 2025 for last year, is most recently in January we hosted a Conservation Livelihoods conference in Cambridge that attracted 19 different countries and over 100 delegates. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary, Deputy Curtis?
Yes, I thank the Minister for that answer. And what will her priorities be in her work programme for the remainder of the year?
Minister.
As I've just just alluded to, we will be conducting an international external evaluation of JOA's programmes in preparation for the strategic plan. I intend to launch a new programme for our JPOs, which are our junior programme officers. Historically we've used UNHCR, which focuses on refugees, and I'm hoping, well, we're in negotiations now with UNICEF to set up a similar programme with them. So I think that would be a really positive move for the island and islanders who want to participate in those schemes. I think, I don't know what else. We'll just continue to uphold our sort of humanitarian and work with local charities and our volunteers. Thank you, sir.
Constable St Lawrence.
Thank you, sir. Jersey Overseas Aid joined the United Nations Junior Professional Officer Scheme in 2021. Participation in that enables islanders to embark on a career within the United Nations. Will the Minister advise the Assembly what benefits she sees from our participation in that scheme?
Minister.
Thank you. As I said in the answer to the last question, I'm currently negotiating with UNICEF, but the current scheme, I think, offers islanders a fantastic opportunity in international development because, believe it or not, it's an incredibly hard sector to get into because they all want experience. So this gives islanders experience in that field. It also means that Jersey raises its profile, and the participants in that scheme are countries like Australia, Canada, the Scandinavian countries. So Jersey is up there with larger countries, so it puts us in the humanitarian space in a very positive light. Yeah, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for islanders and for Jersey. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary.
Yes, thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise whether we have a contract with the UN to continue participation, and if so, for how long will we be supporting this JPO scheme?
Minister.
So commissioners make decisions on that on a year by year, but we do have a contract with UNHCR, and we plan to continue that and extend it to UNICEF as well. But it's really for commissioners to decide. Yeah, it's not just my decision.
Constable Saviour.
Thank you, sir. I make no political comments, only by way of relieving suffering. So it is my understanding that Médecins Sans Frontières has been banned from operating in Gaza. Is there another group or maybe a medical facility outside of the affected war zone could be supported by the Minister to ease suffering? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
So, well, we don't support Médecins Sans Frontières. So it's not one of our partner agencies. And at the minute, we are supporting medical aid for Palestinians, MAP, as it's referred to. So we've got current programs with them.
Supplementary. Deputy Renouf.
Thank you, sir. Just following up Deputy Catherine Curtis's question, could the Minister perhaps address the achievements on the ground that she feels have been most impactful over the last few years?
Minister.
I'm not entirely sure what that means. It could be, you know, supplying funding for emergency aid. It could be sending our volunteers for the to community work projects on the ground. Each of our sustainable grants actively help people on the ground, like with Dairy for Development, conservation livelihoods, and financial inclusion. So I think we do an awful lot of work on the ground. So.
Supplementary?
Yes, sir. I was hoping that the Minister might be able to say where she felt that Jersey's money had made the greatest difference to lives, you know, to people in need.
Minister.
That's quite a difficult one. Possibly our Dairy for Development programs that started in Rwanda and is now extended to Zambia, Malawi, and Ethiopia and Nepal. This provides nutrition for children, which then enables them to go to school. Sorry, my voice is going. And build up skills. And we started very small with single heads of households, and then passed a calf on to the next head of household. Now it's extended within the region of places rather than just villages. So I think probably that, but included in that is the financial inclusion program, which allows any savings that people make to be banked. Yeah, I think they're all very, very positive.
Deputy Taddeo.
Thank you, sir. My question relates to the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which the Minister has regard for. Could I ask in particular in relation to Goal 5 and 16, so one's about gender equality and promoting peaceful and strong institutions, sir. What levers does the Minister have when engaging either through overseas aid or through her wider international development role to ensure that countries that we are dealing with Jersey could have some influence on ensuring that these two goals in particular are promoted?
Minister.
I believe three themes promote those two areas. I'm sorry, could somebody get me a glass of water?
Yes, of course.
My voice is
Get some
going.
water, please, for the Minister. Yes, it's in hand.
Thank
There's
you.
some here, actually. Anyway.
Thank you. I'll keep going. As the deputy may be aware, there are 17 goals, but there are 5 pillars which represent people, planet, prosperity, peace and partnership. And I believe each of our 3 themes recognise and overlap most of that, certainly those 5 pillars, but we represent a lot of the themes anyway. The one that he alluded to was gender equality. The programme I've just described about giving the head of household, thank you. Thank you very much. Giving the head of household a calf, I think that head of household is always a woman, and then they pass it on. So I think we, and the financial inclusion, helping people, and again, mainly women, be banked with their savings. So I think we touch on many of the themes. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary, Deputy Sellier?
Yeah, thank you, sir. If I'd have known, I'd have probably asked about Development Goal 6, which is access to clean water, sir. So my question has a context. I was contacted by a member of the public who was concerned about the situation in Syria since the change of regime, where he thinks that there's been a rollback on human rights, and especially when it comes to women's rights in the country and the way women are treated. And I was wondering if the Minister could talk specifically about whether she has any interaction with Syria and whether this is something which is on her radar, and how involvement of Jersey over there, if it's not being done, how that might help, and if it is, if Jersey is in that area, what it can do specifically to exert soft influence in those areas.
Minister, you've got 9 seconds to tell us about Syria.
Okay. Well, I would say it's a bit early to tell what's going to happen after the Bashar regime. I did, in fact, visit Syria and in October, and I was pleasantly surprised with how things, how the society is, and there is a lot of positivity post-Bashar. So it's a case of wait and see, I think.
Thank you very much for that, Minister. The third period of questions is for the Chief Minister, and the first question is from Deputy War, then Deputy Catherine Curtis.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, I just didn't appreciate it was going to be called quite as quickly as this, so let's just pull this up on screen. How often has Jersey's government been consulted by the Home Office when it comes to cannabis policy?
Chief Minister.
I'd have to check, sir. I'm not sure what communications have, the number of communications that have taken place between Jersey and the UK on this matter. I know there have been some, sir, but I couldn't give the exact figure.
Supplementary?
Would he be able to come back to me on that? I mean, so my next question and a follow-up question, I'm hoping I will get a written maybe response to this, is have representatives from the Home Office visited Jersey cannabis production sites in the last 12 months to discuss Jersey's cannabis production?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. Well, first of all, I just want to make clear Jersey would ask to consult with the Home Office, not the other way around. It would be unusual for that, sir. Through our licensing regime, I understand through the international cannabis rules, our licenses are vetted by a team from the UK Home Office, sir, but other than that, I can provide further details.
You've answered the second question hasn't been answered, is it? Your supplementary?
No, it says, have representatives from the Home Office visited Jersey cannabis production sites in the last 12 months?
Chief Minister, can you answer that question?
Well, I presume if they were visiting with a view to commenting on giving a licence, I would think the answer to that would be yes, sir, but I don't know. I'd have to check with the relevant ministerial team. Thank you.
Deputy Catherine Curtis.
Thank you, sir. Right, there were soldiers from Jersey who fought in Afghanistan. Would the Chief Minister be willing to say something in recognition of the bravery and service of those soldiers, bearing in mind the dismissive comments made by President Trump since our last States Assembly sitting?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. The men and women who served did so with courage, professionalism, and a deep sense of duty. They operated in extraordinarily difficult circumstances, sir. Dangerous circumstances, far from home. And I want to place on record sir, if I may, our respect as an assembly for all those from Jersey who served alongside our allies and for their families who shared the burden of service. And I would disassociate myself and the government, sir, from any comments made by others contrary to this. Thank you.
Supplementary.
I just thank the Chief Minister for his comments. I had spoken to an ex-soldier and I know how much that hurts, the remarks from the United States.
Deputy Raneth.
Thank you, sir. The Chief Minister recently put out a social media post regarding the phase-out of internal combustion engine cars, in which he characterised the UK position as, quote, "The United Kingdom has proposed 2030 but with flexibility and ongoing debate." How does the Chief Minister justify characterising the UK's position as flexibility with ongoing debate, given that the UK's consultation finished some time ago and the UK position is that all new cars will be either zero emissions or hybrids from 2030?
Chief Minister.
I believe, sir, that ministers from the UK have expressed there would be flexibility. And whilst I think, and I can't remember the exact details, sir, the Prime Minister made a statement along the lines of they were sticking with that target for now, sir. I personally think that whilst I support the principle of that, sir, we need to ensure that Jersey moves at a pace that is suitable, appropriate and practicable for Jersey. So there's no point us moving ahead of markets, moving ahead of how products are manufactured. And the point of my social media post was to direct islanders to the consultation that was taking place. But for the avoidance of doubt, I do believe we need to be flexible and pragmatic on our approach, sir. And I think it's well worth, in the early part of the new Assembly, reconsidering our targets to make sure, sir, they are still achievable.
Supplementary.
Yes, so does the Chief Minister recognise that the longer we keep importing internal combustion engine vehicles, the harder we make it to get to our 2050 deadline?
Chief Minister.
No, I don't, sir. I believe we can still reach our target of 2050 with some sensible and practical flexibility.
Deputy Talia.
So I'll stick on the theme that was raised by my St Brelard colleague. Does the Chief Minister think that there's actually another angle to consider with the reduction in combustion engine cars, which is that Jersey could promote itself and do so perhaps more quickly as a clean air island, and that what's considered now a fringe benefit could be one of the central benefits to reduce pollution on our roads for our children, but also for those visiting the island?
Chief Minister.
Well, I think we could do that, so I think that would be a good idea. But as I said before, we want to make sure it's practicable. There's no point in doing that if it's going to cause more challenges, more disadvantages for islands, being unreal and create challenges for businesses. We are lucky. We have clean air. Generally speaking, I do accept we have a lot of cars on our roads, but I think it's about finding the right balance and the right pathway to get to where we want to be and not doing it at any cost. So if we were to jump ahead of the rest of Europe and the UK, then we would find ourselves, I think, in great difficulty because the availability of cars would not match our needs. And I also think we should wait to see how other low fossil emission forms of energy are being developed, rather than putting all of our eggs into the electric car market.
Supplementary.
Basket.
I do wonder what the reticence is on the behalf of government. So, is it one that he's worried that people simply won't be able to afford to buy electric vehicles? And if that's the case, is it not that there needs to be schemes to actually assist with the transition from fossil fuels to electric, sir, given that the whole backstory, I can only see positives about going electric, sir. And it's a case of how we get there and how we take people along. Is the main consideration, sir, to reiterate, one of cost for families in Jersey?
Chief Minister.
It's one of practicality, sir, and reality. If I just refer to my post, as I mentioned before, Jersey is committed to tackling climate change, but a requirement to begin phasing out importation of petrol and diesel engines could be not practicable by 2030, while electric and other low-emission vehicles are improving the uptake, and uptake is growing. A 2030 deadline would move faster than the market infrastructure and affordability may allow, particularly on island, with limited vehicle supply, higher cost and constraints on charging provisions. International comparisons show that Jersey would be moving ahead of most comparable jurisdictions. That's what I was basing my comments on, and urging people to participate in the consultation. I agree we must push forward with this, but at a realistic timeline, so, which might be different to the 2030 we're currently targeting.
Any more questions for the Chief Minister? If there are no further questions for the Chief Minister, that brings the period of questions to an end. So moving to the order paper, there's nothing under J or K. Before we begin public business, a decision needs to be taken about whether to reduce the minimum lodging period in respect of certain items on the order paper. Firstly, Chair of the Privileges and Procedures Committee, do you make the proposition under Standing Order 26.7 that the lodging period be reduced to allow the third amendment to the amendment to Standing Orders Code of Conduct be debated at this meeting?
Indeed, I do, sir.
Is the proposition seconded?
Yes, sir.
Does any member speak on the proposition? Those in favour kindly show. Thank you very much. The proposition is adopted and the lodging period is reduced. Minister for Social Security, there are three matters which I think you've kindly, effectively brought forward to this meeting to ensure that there's a slightly lesser burden at the next meeting, end of February. And is it your proposition that the lodging period should be reduced in respect of three matters lodged by you, namely the Draft Employment and Discrimination Tribunal Amendment Regulations, the Draft Social Security Health and Christmas Bonus Amendment Regulations, and the Draft Employment and Discrimination Amendment Law, so that they can be debated at this meeting?
Yes, sir, and you are correct. The only reason I'm doing this is to help spread the work across the next few sittings.
Yes, thank you very much. Is the proposition seconded?
Yes, sir.
Does anyone wish to speak on the proposition? Those in favour of adopting the proposition, can you please kindly show? Thank you very much. The proposition is adopted and the three lodging periods are reduced. The first item of public business is the Draft Marriage and Civil Partnership, Dissolution and Separation Law lodged by the Minister for Justice and Home Affairs. The main respondent is the Chair of the Children, Education and Home Affairs Scrutiny Panel. The debate is listed to resume following adoption of the principles on the 25th of November last. Deputy Catherine Curtis, is it right that your panel wishes to seek a deferral of this matter until the end of February?
Yes, sir.
So this date was agreed, and this is 3 meetings after the adoption of the principles, and you wish to postpone the matter until the 4th meeting, is that correct?
Yes.
I think that is really a matter for members. So that's your proposition. Is that seconded?
Yes, sir.
Does anyone wish to speak on the proposition this matter be put back to the end of February? Minister.
Sir, yes, I'm fully supportive of the request from this panel. As members will appreciate, there's been significant work in relation to this remit under the Justice and Home Affairs, so they've been having to review a lot of legislation, and this is one piece that they would like to be able to further. They've been consulting with stakeholders, and they have got one or two items that they wish to complete, and so I've agreed that, and I would ask members to do likewise.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak on this proposition? Deputy Curtis, do you wish to respond?
Yes, thank you, sir. Just to say that the panel asked for this deferral because there are still outstanding issues on legal points which we're trying to resolve. Members may have seen the letters from the Jersey Family Law Association, which have been published on the States Assembly website. But there has been progress since this was called in. An amendment lodged by the Minister, a meeting with the Minister to discuss the way forward, and a meeting arranged with the Family Division Judge. Following this, the panel will be in a position to complete our review. And I thank the Minister for Justice and Home Affairs for her support in this matter, and I ask members to support the deferral.
Thank you. Those in favour of adopting the proposition kindly show. Thank you very much. The proposition is adopted and the matter will be debated on the 24th of February. The next item is the draft Public Records Amendment Law lodged by the Minister for Sustainable Economic Development. The main respondent is the Chair of the Economic and International Affairs Scrutiny Panel. I ask the greffier to read the citation.
Draft Public Records Jersey Amendment Law 2000, a law to amend the Public Records Jersey Law 2002. The State, subject to the sanction of His Most Excellent Majesty and Council, have adopted the following law.
Minister.
Sir, I just wanted to check whether it could be read as amended because we have an amendment to.
I think we come to that after the principles you proposed, okay, when we come to the articles.
I just wanted to check. I'll get confused there. Thank you, sir. Sir, this draft amendment to the law would, if passed by the Assembly, amend the Public Records Jersey Law 2002. Before we discuss the proposed amendment to the law, I would first like to thank members and officers of the Economic and International Affairs Scrutiny Panel for the work they have done, particularly around our amendment to the amendment, and for providing supportive comments on these proposed changes. The proposed changes were initially made by the Records Advisory Panel as part of their statutory duties within the existing law. This is the first time that the law has been reviewed since its introduction more than 20 years ago and did not warrant a major overhaul. However, it was considered that there were significant areas where changes are needed to ensure that the law remains fit for purpose. At this point, sir, I'd like to pay tribute to the Records Advisory Panel, a voluntary body, for bringing this proposal to my attention. Their work over the last 20 years has been vital to the good conduct and running of Jersey's public records functions. It is worth noting, before we go much further, sir, what the purpose of the law itself is. Namely, the Public Records Law is a law relating to records concerning states' functions and other public functions in Jersey, relating to access to those records when they become archives and conferring various functions on the Jersey Heritage Trust, an archivist and a Records Advisory Panel. To be clear, the proposed amendments do not put any further onus on existing administrations and their record keeping. The proposed changes are to amend the definition of administration of the states to mirror the Freedom of Information Jersey Law 2011 in order to be consistent. To broaden the definition of a public record, which currently states the creation and receivership by a public institution in the performance of its functions, to now include whether it was created or received in Jersey or elsewhere. While every effort was considered to try and define an entity that is an administration of the states or a corporation owned by the same, or in which the states have a controlling interest, so as to not require a schedule of public institutions. This proved rather complicated owing to the nature of how different all of these public institutions have been created. As such, and in line with other jurisdictions such as the UK and the Isle of Man, the amendments propose the introduction of a schedule of institutions to clarify which bodies are captured by the draft law and avoid areas where there has previously been uncertainty. This proposed schedule will be introduced by regulations made under the amendment law. Subject to approval, this proposed schedule may be amended by order of the Minister for Sustainable Economic Development on the recommendation of the Records Advisory Panel. And further, the amendment law provides if there is a dispute by a body being categorised as a public institution under an administration of the states or corporation owned by the states, or in which the states has a controlling interest, they have the right to refer the matter to the Minister for consideration and a decision. The most significant changes relate to the role and responsibility of the archivist, and both their principal duties and other functions have been refined and amalgamated to make it clearer. Conscious of the positive relationships that have been developed between the archivist, her team, and the various bodies who have provided records to Jersey Archive, it was felt that there was not a need to introduce fines or other penalties for those organisations in breach of the law. As such, the initial amendments proposed in Article 7 of the draft amendment law that inserts subparagraph 2A into Article 38 of the primary law that states if the Records Advisory Panel are made aware that a public institution is in breach of its duty of records management under the law, it will advise the Minister, who may on the advice of the panel take the necessary steps to remedy the breach. Sir, at this point, I would like to highlight my proposed amendment to the draft law amendment relating to Article 38. I acknowledge that it was an amendment laid late in the day, and my decision in doing so has been informed by further concerns raised by the Privileges and Procedures Committee and the State's Grep. The particular context of the original Article 38 amendment, as previously highlighted, is that it is the Records Advisory Panel which becomes aware that a public institution is in breach of its records duty, and it accordingly may notify the Minister, who may then take the steps that he or she considers necessary. That's under Article 2A. This includes, but is not limited to, directing the public institution to remedy the breach with the assistance of the archivist. That latter part is Article 2B. The word direct is used in multiple contexts already in the Public Records Law, for example in relation to both directions from the Records Advisory Panel and the archivist. However, while direct is an undefined term and does not carry any sanction for non-adherence, the context is still the Minister directing, which appears at odds with the spirit and intention of the States of Jersey Law 2005 and the Departments of the Judiciary and the Legislature Jersey Law 1965. To confirm, this amendment is clarificatory and does not affect the operation of subparagraph 2B, but before it, and the overall effect would still be the availability of essentially political solutions. But, and I think it's really important, and I'm grateful to the scrutiny panel for looking at this, by removing Article 2B through the amendment to the amendment, what we are doing is we are avoiding the constitutional clash between that States of Jersey law, which quite appropriately provides for the separation of the executive from the judiciary and the legislature, and so avoids the Minister being able to direct the judiciary or the legislature in that area. And so, but by keeping Article 2A, we still create the ability for remedies to be put in place, but not in any way directed. Whilst penalties are not being proposed, the archivist may name a public body who has been in breach of its duty in its statutory annual report or other reports, detailing the steps taken to the remedy of records management. Finally, and certainly not least, the proposed amendments require the Minister to publish a code of practice, which is detailed in the report, in the law, to assist public institutions with the performance of their duty of records management. A copy of the draft code of practice has been included in the proposition. This draft code was circulated to those institutions covered by the proposed draft amendments to the legislation in spring 2025 and was welcomed. Subject to the Assembly's support, sir, this draft law will come into force by ministerial order, and the schedule of institutions included in the draft regulations will be lodged simultaneously. Sir, I commend these amendments to the law and ask that the motion be put forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Are the principles seconded?
Yes, sir.
Does anyone wish to speak on the principles? Deputy Iyer, then Constable and Prelard. Deputy Iyer.
Thank you, sir. I would just like to comment on Article 7 of the draft amendment law, which would alter the provisions of Article 38 of the principal law. I am grateful to the Minister for the amendment he has lodged, as it addresses a point of concern identified by PPC when it considered the law. PPC is not a scrutiny panel, but we do consider upcoming business at each meeting in case there are matters of relevance to PPC's remit. Article 7, as originally drafted, would have given the Minister a power to direct public institutions to remedy any breach of their duty of records management. Within the law, the State's GREF and other non-ministerial departments are counted as public institutions, and the Minister would therefore have had a power to direct the State's GREF, the GREF being responsible for the administration of the Assembly's records. PPC had two concerns about the article as originally drafted. One was on a matter of principle. Was it appropriate for a government minister to have such authority over the Assembly's records in light of the separation of powers and the Assembly's constitutional independence? An important part of States Assembly privilege is that the Assembly manages its own affairs. The second question was a practical one. How could the minister direct the State's GREF when the State of Jersey law states the GREF is not subject to ministerial direction? Similar provisions exist for other non-ministerial departments in other legislation. We are therefore grateful for the amendment. Article 7, as it now stands, would still allow for the Minister to bring breaches to the attention of the State's GREF. It is just that explicit power of direction has been removed. PPC otherwise had no concerns regarding the operation of the amendment law. In administering the Assembly's records, the State's GREF already works to the provisions of the principal law, and it will work to these new provisions as well. This may seem like a small matter, but it is important that the Assembly's operation and privileges are considered when legislation is developed that may impact on them. I give notice to the Chief Minister that I will write to him to ask that there is direct consultation with PPC in future when it is considering a draft law or regulations that could impact on the Assembly in that way. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chair of PPC. Constable and Brillard.
Thank you, sir. The committee, if I can speak for the committee, hasn't discussed this at all, other than it being on forthcoming State's business. But we note it's a draft law, so requires Privy Council approval in due course and a commencement date to be agreed. I raise this, sir, because on page 12 there's also Annex A setting out the role of the designated manager for a public institution, and that this will vary according to the institution's size. Given, sir, that parishes will be inevitably involved, we feel there may be a cost implication, although the Minister in his at the outset indicated that there wouldn't be a cost. So I would appreciate clarity on that. We feel that when the report says that no financial staffing implications will occur, this only refers to government departments as per standing orders, but there's no indication of when the commencement date envisaged might be, so that will certainly have an implication on parishes and their staffing, and we would need a lead-in time to consider that. We do have the retention schedule agreed with the Jersey Archive under the Public Records Law, and that, of course, is due to be reviewed at present. So I'd appreciate the Minister's comments regarding the cost implications. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Constable. There was another light on over here, but I didn't catch the, I didn't know who, there was another light on. I didn't write down the name. Sorry.
This side, I think, sir.
Was it you, was it?
I mean, I did have my light on, I don't know.
Oh, well, in that case, it may have been you. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. So I try not to have a conversation sitting down, sir. So I respond as the Economic International Affairs Scrutiny Panel Chair. First of all, we did issue initial comments originally in the middle of January. We're happy with the body of the proposition. We recognise that the public records law does need to be updated, and we also recognise the good work that goes on from the archivist and the associated body, sir. So we also note that there was an amendment which came fairly late in the day, and therefore it wasn't really appropriate for us to debate it. I don't think we wanted some time as a scrutiny panel to look at this, As the Chair of PPC has explained, and I'll speak to the amendment specifically, sir, the amendment does propose removing a specific provision. Formerly it was Article 38(2)(b), which would have allowed the Minister, if notified of a breach of records management duties, to direct the public institution to remedy the breach with the assistance of the archivist. As a result of this removal, we asked the following questions recently as part of our short scrutiny of this. Why this power had been included in the original draft, why the Minister now proposed to remove it, whether its removal would weaken accountability or enforcement, and whether alternative means exist to achieve compliance in remedying a breach, sir. Government officers advised us that, as drafted, the Records Advisory Panel identifies breaches and may notify the Minister. The Minister may then take any steps considered necessary to address the breach. The term direction already appears elsewhere in the Public Records Law in relation to both the RAP and the archivist of ministerial direction over independent institutions. Sorry, so the direction over of independent institutions could be interpreted as inconsistent with the States of Jersey Law 2005 and departments of the judiciary and the legislature under the 1965 law, which requires independence from ministerial interference. The panel understands the rationale provided. It appears that the Minister wishes to avoid any implication of direct ministerial authority over public institutions where constitutional independence must be maintained, and the panel considers this explanation reasonable and asks that the Minister explicitly confirm the reasoning for this during the debate. If he hasn't done already, he may have done that in the opening remarks sufficiently. The reason for this is we want to make sure that members can be assured that the power is being removed for constitutional consistency rather than in any practical way of limiting oversight. So, with regard to the impact of removing the power to direct, the panel's second concern was whether removing this article would materially weaken the enforcement framework for public records management. Specifically, the panel sought assurance that the Minister would still be able to take suitable action when notified of a breach, and that the RAP's oversight function would not be diminished. Officers confirmed that Article 38 remains unchanged, Article 38(2)(a), that is, and under 38(2)(a), when the RAP becomes aware of a breach, it may notify the Minister, who may then take any steps considered necessary on the advice of the RAP. This provides a broad and flexible power for the Minister to respond to breaches without the specific term direct. Therefore, the removal of 2B does not prevent the Minister from requiring remedial steps. So, the panel's view on the basis of the advice and evidence that we've received is that we are satisfied that the removal of the article does not reduce the Minister's functional ability to address breaches. The Minister retains the capacity to act on the advice given by the panel, the RAP. So to conclude, sir, having reviewed the Minister's amendments, the removal of the Minister's power to direct is intended to avoid any constitutional ambiguity, that the core enforcement mechanism remains fully operational, and that there is therefore no material weakening of the draft law's intent or effectiveness in remedying such a breach, sir. And with that, sir, our panel is happy to recommend both the adoption of the amendment, which was being proposed as amended, and the underlying change, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Does anyone else wish to speak on the principles? I call upon the Minister to reply. Minister.
Thank you, sir, and I thank all members who have spoken. I'd like to thank the Chair of PPC for bringing his concerns to my attention, and I was very pleased to try and deal with those concerns. And I believe, to Deputy Dattier's question, I did try to say in my earlier speech that the reasoning was entirely constitutional, and I don't want any part of this amendment to the law to create a constitutional friction. And so that's why Article 38(2)(b) we have the amendment to delete that from the proposition. With regard to the Constable Sembrelard, the cost implications, As the Constable said, they already have, the parishes already have retention schedules agreed with the archive. Really, this is what this law is about. It's about ensuring that the appropriate public institutions engage with the archive, create retention schedules, and then work and operate according to those retention schedules. So from that perspective, I do not see any cost implications for the parishes because, as the Constable already said, that is the work that they have already done. So in that sense, there is no direct impact from this. I think it's really important, whilst the public records law is perhaps a law that people don't look at very often, it's a law which ultimately I think all of us benefit from and all islanders benefit from, because it creates that archive of our history and our heritage long into the future, long after we're all gone. And I know that many families in Jersey, just at a very family level, enjoy using the archive to help research their family records. And obviously at a political level, it's fascinating to read about the past politics of the island and the past governance of the island, and to learn about those things. And the Jersey Archive has records that date back to the 14th century. And I believe we are in a wonderfully fortunate position of being able to sit in this small island and have such a strong record of our history, because it is our history that will guide us as we go forward. I always think in that, and I think I may have said this before actually, I still remember when I was a child at Benny's of Millbrook, they had a big sign, and the sign just said, it was a quote, I'm trying to think who the quote was from, it's not Shelley, it's somebody else. It said, all our past proclaims our future. And Mr. Benet had that in a very big sign right next to the front entrance to Benet's, and it's always stuck in my mind. And really, that is what the public records law is about. It is about our past helping to guide us into our future. And so, sir, I'd like to thank the scrutiny panel for their work. I'd particularly like to thank the archivist and the records and her team, and the Records Advisory Panel for their work as well, sir, because they do an incredible amount of work helping to guard Jersey's history, and they do it on a voluntary basis, and for that I really do thank them, sir. But with that, sir, I would call for the appel.
Thank you, Minister. The appel has been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats. I ask the greffier to open the voting. Deputy Scott. Yes, ask the greffier to open the voting. And if all members have had the opportunity of casting their votes, I ask the greffier to close the voting. Announce the principles have been adopted unanimously, 43 votes for. Deputy Teddy, can you confirm your panel have scrutinised this matter?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Minister, do you wish to propose the articles as amended by your small amendment in second reading?
Yes, sir, I do, sir.
Members content for the articles be taken as amended? Thank you. Minister, how do you wish to propose the articles?
So I'd like to propose them en bloc, please, sir.
Thank you. Are the articles seconded?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak on the articles in second reading? Those in favour of adopting the articles kindly show. Thank you very much. The articles are adopted in second reading. Minister, do you propose the matter in third reading?
Yes, sir.
Is the matter seconded in third reading?
Yes, sir.
Does anyone wish to speak on the articles as adopted in third reading?
Call for the appel, please, sir.
No one wishes to speak. Appel has been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats. I'll ask the greffier to open the voting. If all members have had the chance to cast their votes, I'll ask the greffier to close the voting. I can announce that the draft law has been adopted unanimously in third reading. 44 votes for. The next item is amendments to standing orders, Code of Conduct, lodged by the Privileges and Procedures Committee. Chair of PPC, I think there are 3 amendments, all to be considered separately. Is that right?
Yes, please, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. I ask the greffier to read the proposition.
The States are asked to decide whether they're of opinion to make the following amendment to the Standing Orders of the States of Jersey with immediate effect: to replace the Code of Conduct for elected members contained in Schedule 3 to the Standing Orders of the States of Jersey with a revised Code of Conduct contained in Appendix 1 to the report accompanying the proposition.
Chair of PPC.
Thank you, sir. PPC is bringing this revised Code of Conduct for debate today following an extensive consultation period which started in 2024. On 3 occasions, we went out to members for comments, firstly seeking suggested changes and then asking for comments on the revised drafts. We also held briefings and redrafted the code to reflect the feedback given. PPC looked at the codes of other parliaments, both big and small, deciding to move to a rules-based format so that the code will be more accessible and clearer, not just for us as members, but also for the public. The present code is quite wordy, set out in long paragraphs and open to interpretation, whereas short, succinct rules, grouped under relative headings, make it far easier to find the relevant rule and hopefully also easier to understand. Much of the original code remains. All we have done is rephrase parts to make them shorter and clearer. New elements have been added to reflect the feedback received from members during the consultation, particularly in relation to behaviours, with clear definitions of bullying, discrimination, harassment and unwanted behaviour now included. There are also new rules to reflect the way in which members are expected to engage with the Commissioner for Standards and any investigatory process. We need to have rules with which we can all comply. There is no point making unrealistic or overly technical. None of this is intended to catch members out or give rise to increased complaints to the Commissioner. Quite the opposite, in fact. With trust in the Assembly repeatedly reported as low in Jersey opinions and lifestyle surveys, and our voter turnout amongst the lowest in the world, we have to consider how we are perceived by the public. I am sure that none of us feels that lack of trust in us is deserved. Members of this Assembly are dedicated to public service and committed to high ethical standards in public life. This revised code helps us to demonstrate that in all we do. It makes a commitment to the public that we will act on their behalf in an objective, honest and accountable manner. Sir, I make the proposition.
Thank you, Chair. Is the proposition seconded? Thank you. We now move to considering the first amendment to be debated, which is the second amendment lodged by Deputy Scott. And I ask the greffier to read the amendment.
Page 2. After the words Appendix 1 to the report accompanying the proposition, there should be inserted the words, except that within Appendix 1, Part 1, Paragraph 1, the words assist elected members in the discharge of their obligations to the states, their constituents and the public of Jersey should be substituted with the words set out the principles and rules governing members' conduct to support good governance and public accountability.
Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. So, I think the real question when we think about why we should even be amending the Code of Conduct is parliamentary culture, what it should be. And I'm most aware that it's very difficult for states members to be enforcing a code of conduct against other states members. We have to act together and this sort of thing. We do look to the public to some extent to enforce it too. And I have done a lot of work recently in the area of complaints and finding that often the public can't even aware how to complain and what they should do to complain. So whilst I really did not wish to make any further comment on this code of conduct, I had previously raised this issue with the PPC that the purpose of the code, as currently stated, didn't really mention the public and the value of the code as a tool of accountability at all. So currently the proposed draft says the purpose of the code of conduct is to assist elected members in the discharge of their obligations to the states, their constituents, and the public of Jersey. So it's described as a tool to assist states members. It sounds a bit like it's some sort of perk or, you know, an HR tool. But I would actually say that our duty is to act in the interests of the public, and this is our document to say, this is how you can make us accountable. This is what you can expect of us. So on that basis, the wording that I have proposed is there to respect the simplicity of the code, whilst importing this language that basically is saying that the purpose of this code, it sets out the principles and rules governing members' conduct to support good governance and public accountability. I did not expect my amendment to be controversial, but the PPC didn't accept it, and now is the opportunity for the members to explain why, because I will be happy to respond. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Is the amendment seconded?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak on the amendment? Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. So as the member who bringing this amendment has just mentioned, obviously the PPC didn't necessarily formally agree with both of the deputy's amendments, and I think this is more why we're having the debate over both, because we couldn't necessarily agree on both the amendments. So when it comes to the deputy's first amendment, my initial reflection is this is one, it's just a choice of wording, it's one way or another. Is assist, the word to assist us in our day-to-day, is that clear enough in its the fact that the code is actually something we should be living by and working by? So there's that part, is that too soft? So is it the clarity that she sets out in her amendment that, you know, these are the principles and rules, because there are things that we should be doing, especially in maintaining public confidence as well as maintaining confidentiality. And to remember that, you know, there should be repercussions if you break the rules by which we're supposed to be working by. So I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with either way that these the proposed by PPC changes or the amendment changes, but personally, sir, I actually like the members' adjustment, because I rather the clarity being that this is principles and rules that we should be delivering for good public accountability. So sir, I will be supporting the deputy's amendment on this one.
Thank you, Deputy. Does anyone else wish to speak on this amendment? If no one else wishes to speak, then I call upon Deputy Scott to reply. Deputy Scott.
Well, I thank you for the one member who was prepared to speak, and I thank him for his support. And sir, without further ado, just because at least the votes are transparent, I call for the appel. Thank you.
Appel has been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats. I'll ask the greffier to open the voting. All members have the opportunity of casting their votes. I'll ask the greffier to close the voting. announcing amendment has been adopted. 31 votes for, 8 votes contra, and 2 abstentions.
Can we have the 8 and the 2? So, yes.
Starting with the abstentions, Deputy Porre and Deputy Kovac, and then those voting contra, the Connotabs of Trinity, Deputies Tadier, Rob Ward, Mezek, Miles, Catherine Curtis, and online, Deputies Alves and the Connotab of St Clement.
I'll move on to the next amendment lodged by Deputy Scott. I ask the Secretary to read that amendment.
Page 2, after the words Appendix 1 to the report accompanying the proposition, there should be inserted the words, except that within Appendix 1, Rule 11 should be amended to insert the words, whether physical or digital, after the words facilities and services.
Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. So again, I suggested an amendment of the Code of Conduct with hesitation, but again, I felt that it was in the public interest to bring forward this amendment to remove some ambiguity, which I don't believe would be in the public interest if it's not resolved. So states members may remember supporting a cybersecurity law that I brought in the last sitting. And this has become very prominent in terms of the needs of public interest, protecting the security of systems, and that we all need to show leadership here. In the actual course of this work, I have become too aware of people who work in this area who actually do attempt to and do a lot of work trying to protect systems. But it can't just be done by technology alone. It has to be done by people actually following certain rules and really being observant when using those systems. So there is an argument that you might say that the actual wording of this rule, that members must ensure that the use of facilities and services provided to them could include a system, but in fact, the system is a means of providing a service. It's ambiguous. And in fact, I did research on this because I thought, am I being picky? Am I being over anxious here? But I did some research that suggested that, generally this sort of language has applied to physical spaces. And so the neatest way of actually resolving that ambiguity was to just insert the words physical or digital, so we all can be clear that we do have a responsibility, some leadership to show, and actually in bringing this States Assembly in a modern age where technology systems and networks are actually very much part of the communication facilities of this modern age are actually brought into our Code of Conduct. So with this, I move that proposition. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Is the amendment seconded?
Yes, sir.
Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. And I want to speak on this because I have a number of questions, a number of points to make before I could support this amendment for some particular reasons. The report says that this would assist with the cybersecurity law. But do we not have to be compliant with the cybersecurity law because it is the law? And so there does not add another level of red tape, if you like, for members, and we talk a lot about red tape, that we also have to have it part of, there needs to be something as part of our Code of Conduct. And it is very difficult to define what we mean by digital in these terms. And already we've talked about networks, we've heard about all sorts of quite vague references to what we mean by digital. And also this puts best practice into the Code of Conduct. Now this is where I think we all, as members of this Assembly, need to think very carefully. Best practice is exactly that, it's best practice, but it's not perfection.
And if you miss perfection because you've missed some sort of best practice, and I'll come back to this later, we're looking at, well, that's a breach of the code of conduct, and we have to think very, very carefully as to what we mean by that. So, for example, sir, and there's some genuine questions here, does this mean any use of the device and not directly linked to is a breach of conduct? So, for example, if one decides you're going to sit, I see people doing this all the time, I see states members doing this, and ministers and others, you sit by your laptop, or you'll sit by your desk answering emails, and you start eating your sandwich because you've got to eat something, and you're trying to have a bit of a break, and you think, if I think, oh, I'm going to check the weather for the weekend because, you know, see the time of the Jersey Bulls game on Saturday. Am I breaching the code of conduct? Because that is not directly related to my work. This is something I'm just generally interested in. And it may seem a flippant comment, sir, but we're in the realms there if we're going to say to ourselves our code of conduct is all usage of our digital devices that is not directly linked to work. We have to consider that. There's issues about home working. If I'm working at home on my digital device, does my home at that time become a physical environment whereby I have to have the same controls over the physical environment in an office or in the state's building? I.e., do I have to say to other people, don't come into the room? And we have to consider this. Is that a breach of the code of conduct? Because when we're working online, there is an issue with that. It may be the right thing to do, and members have to make that decision, but we need to have some clarity as to what that means for us. Rule 9 mentions digital medium, by the way, that's already there. So the digital medium is mentioned in Rule 9 of the Code of Conduct that is being brought to the Assembly. Rule 11 includes services, which includes IT services. So they're already there in the Code of Conduct, so we are referring to them. And does the digital refer to emails? If so, how will this be checked? So we will have to have monitoring of all emails to confirm that we haven't breached the code of conduct by sending an email that is not directly linked to work. So if I email, I don't know, can't think of an example now, a friend just to say, oh, I'll meet you at 4 o'clock, you know, as we said, but it's not directly linked to work. Have I breached the code of conduct? And is that a serious breach? We're going to have to monitor that. This aims to remove ambiguity, but it could create some grey areas. Is this only states' devices? Or is this devices that are our own private devices that we use for states' accounts? Is this private email accounts? Because we are linked to our private email accounts by our, the fact that we are, I suppose, politically exposed persons. And we always have to remember that in the background. Does it refer to social media accounts that are not directly related to our roles? And this is the clarity that is needed before we accept that we're going to put these words into our code of conduct. There are other rules. There is a Commissioner for Standards, of course, who can make these judgments elsewhere. There also needs to be a definition when we're talking about best practice, and if this linked to the Cyber Security Act law, which, you know, we agreed, and I agree with it. It's a good idea. Does a breach of a code for a weak password? And I look at all members in this assembly, sir, and say, you know, are you certain that your passwords are strong enough, or are you going to break the code of conduct if you can remember your passwords? I look at myself when I say this, sir, because you have a weak password. So I've recently got something called a privacy screen, which goes across my screen so people can't see from the sides. If I'm using my screen in meetings or in things that's on camera, it's a good idea. If I forget to put that privacy screen in and something is seen, because I've taken the act of getting a privacy screen from the State's Gref, am I now in breach of the code of conduct because I've not appropriately used my privacy screen? And we are getting into these real weeds here by accepting it in this way. I think I'm talking myself into something here, so as you may have in speech. How about the use of Wi-Fi while we're travelling? If you use Wi-Fi while you're travelling, using a state's device because you want to access your email and there's a mistake, are you in breach of code of conduct? If you accidentally click on a phishing link, the phishing, P-H-I-S-I-N-G, I look at one of the members here, which are emails or links that are sent purposefully for that purpose, people fall foul of them. So by making a mistake, are you a genuine error? in what you're doing, you could fall foul of the code of conduct. I think there's a better way to do that, which is to say, educate and know what we're doing. And the cybersecurity law should cover that. And there is, sir, a clear overlap between the cybersecurity law and this. So are we going to have different enforcement regimes? One for the cybersecurity law, one for our code of conduct. And therefore, does a breach of a code of conduct issue become a statutory breach of that code of conduct, or a breach of the law, or both? Will there be a duplication of investigations into that breach? And we have to know where we're going with this before we accept what seems like a subtle and not important changing the wording, because I don't know what will be. So therefore, I cannot agree this at the moment. And will there therefore, there will be sanctions, there will have to be sanctions, and will they be inconsistent? Will we have one sanction from the cybersecurity law and one sanction from the code of conduct, which could be significantly different for the same breach? Because we've added this into our code of conduct in a way which is undefined. Finally, so I'll finish off by saying the amendment says there are no financial implications. So I think there are financial implications. There are training issues involved here. All of us are entering live in a world where it is changing, and we are all learning about cybersecurity, and that's good, and I absolutely support that, and we need to learn. But this will have to be taken account of if we're going to enter this into our code of conduct. Because, if I was a breach of code of conduct was brought to me, I think it's a very fair defence to say, I'm afraid that my training was never kept up to date in that area, and therefore the breach of code of conduct was a genuine error and not my fault. And any member in this assembly who can sit there and say, I'm absolutely up to date with every single rule that is around that, that's absolutely great if you are, but I think there are many of us who are not. There was also, sir, a question of monitoring, and that will cost. There will be a cost for monitoring. The support for one might call the less digitally literate members of the Assembly. We all have different levels of digital literacy in this Assembly. That's a fact. I think mine's pretty good, but compared to others, it's pretty bad. But probably better than some others. That's a natural range of abilities that we have. And will you fall foul of the code for those reasons? I think we all need to think so in this Assembly while we're sat here individually. Will that be me? And also, sir, I think there will be a financial implication, because if we are going to look at the devices that we use, this will be necessary that we provide all states members with states only digital devices to access online, and including telephones and smartphones, and that will have a significant cost. We receive a grant to pay at the beginning, and good job we did, because we would never have got through COVID without us all getting devices that are online, but that was the beginning of that. So to summarise, I can't support this at the moment because I don't think we're ready for this to be in the position that it is, and I think we've already dealt with this in the cybersecurity law, and I think we have to be very careful about what we accept in our code of conduct in terms of a world of digital that is not clearly defined, may be undefinable, and may be unreachable, which means that the code of conduct becomes, to some extent, meaningless. So I urge members to reject this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Zadia.
So I'll be slightly more circumspect in my comments. A few weeks ago in this assembly, sir, I was attending a primary school, and one of the questions they asked me is, do you ever change your mind in a debate, or have you ever been influenced? And I said it happens now and again, and it's indeed happened just now in this. I'm not going to say that I think this is necessarily the best or most pressing amendment that we've ever had in the Assembly, but I do think that there is an intellectual consistency, which means that we shouldn't be too worried about passing it. Although I will say that, I will caveat that with further comments, sir, because my initial thought was that it's unnecessary to specify physical or digital, and if we did it for all of the code of conduct and specified digital, it could be a little bit like that Monty Python sketch, which is not exactly the same, where they're sitting around in the amphitheatre, and I think Reg is in the middle of a diatribe against the Roman Empire and calling his brothers to stand up and saying it should be the right of every man, and I think Stan is saying all women, and it goes back like this. And the question is, why are you so obsessed about women's, Dan? And the question here could be, why are you so obsessed about digital, Deputy Scott? And of course, the reason for that is, I'm not saying she is obsessed with it, but that's one of her political remits. So in one sense, fair play to her, because she's only doing what this Assembly has asked her to do and what ministers have asked her to do to champion digital. And then, of course, I did go back to the rest of the Code of Conduct, and I see Rule 9, which I think it's Rule 9, sir, or 10. It does talk about digital interaction. So it's saying when you have interaction with members of the, Rule 9, members must not subject anyone to personal attack in any communication, whether verbal, written, or by some form of digital medium. And therefore, that could have been worded in a more simplistic way. It could have just said, members must not subject anyone to personal attack in any communication, and then left it blank. Because it could have been by letter, could have been by telegram, probably don't use that anymore, or it could be in digital form. So it does specify there. So I think there is a consistency here, which means that I'm less likely to object to that on those grounds. The concern I would have more general is something that I think Deputy Ward has alluded to, is that what I wouldn't want to see happening, sir, is this being used as a sword more so than a shield, if that's the correct terminology, sir. Insofar as, or carrot and stick might be more appropriate. I'm not sure if if there is going to be much more focus on digital usage and security, etc. I've not necessarily seen the evidence that the support that members are given routinely, certainly the training that members are given, in even basic things like changing passwords. You know, I don't think I should necessarily even say this publicly, but I can't remember ever having been prompted to change a password on the state system in the 17 years that I've been here. Maybe that's something we need to consider, because there does seem to be a disconnect. The other thing is that Rule 11, as it's worded, probably needs to be kept under scrutiny in the future, because it's very much permissive in the sense it says, I think it's just strange wording anyway, the original wording that we have, whether it's amended or not. It says members must ensure that use of facilities is in support of their parliamentary activities. What that really means, of course, I think, is that don't misuse facilities. Members should not misuse the facilities. Why doesn't it say that then, rather than this very strange wording? Members must ensure that use of facilities and services provided to them, including meeting rooms and office spaces, is in support of their parliamentary activities. And it's in accordance with all relevant policies. And again, I think we just need at some point to have a plain English audit of our own procedures and code of conduct so that it's understandable. I was going to say, not by year 5 students, but also by any states members in the future, and I don't know which one of those might necessarily be the more intelligent group, sir. But both of them, no doubt, have great potential, sir. So I'm not going to make a big deal of this. What I would say, though, is if we invite and encourage amendments like this, which arguably don't make too much difference, it does, to a certain extent, undermine the fact that we do have a Privileges and Procedures Committee here, and we could see this kind of amendment being put forward into not just PPC's proposals in the future, but any legislation that comes forward, and we could find ourselves here all day. So I'm not especially bothered about it. What I would hope is that the intention of this and the underlying meaning, I think, is correct, and that future members are given all the support they need, as well as clear direction about what it means to use facilities appropriate. A lot of it's common sense, sir, but of course we know that that can't always be taken for granted.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. I'm hopefully probably the last Reform Jersey member to speak today on this simple proposition amendment, but I also believe that I'm probably the cause of why PPC didn't accept the amendments as drafted, so I thought it is my place to actually stand up and speak. The reason I didn't support, the reason I support the first one but not this amendment, sir, is because actually I believe where the Deputy in her first amendment made something more direct, she added a vagueness into this, which then meant that I felt I could pull it further apart and put it to those awkward extremes. And that's what I did with in the email we sent around to PPC, and also have explained to us at our parliamentary party meetings. And that's what I will explain to members now, is when you can take something to a weird extreme. It does add that inconsistency and ambiguity in the rules that we're supposed to be following. So, sir, as members may be aware, there is a ban on dogs being in the parliamentary estate. You're not allowed to have dogs in our offices or in this building due to an event that has happened within this term. So when we start seeing the use of facilities and services, whether physical or digital, come in, it then makes me ask the question, if I'm in a digital meeting with a service that has been provided, which Teams is a service, does that now mean that I'm not allowed to have my dog in the room if I'm in a meeting that's being provided through Teams? Now, most of us would say, well, come, that's ridiculous. But of course, this is a code of conduct where somebody then might have a disagreement with someone and they decide, well, actually, I'm going to take that to the extrapolated extreme and make a point out of it and send it off to the Commissioner for Standards. Where actually, when we read the original draft by PPC as itself, that final sentence and is in accordance with all relative policies, I personally think it means we don't need to specify whether something is physical or digital. It becomes more simple for members to follow. It makes it easier for people to understand and interpret the rules that are in front of them. These extra 4 words add a level of complexity that just simply doesn't need to be there, because it just states that there's in accordance with all the relevant policies, whether that's a digital policy, whether that's a physical policy. These policies are quite clear, and we should be being advised, we should be trained, or we should be actually going out there and making ourselves aware of what policies actually apply to us. We are not above the policies which have been devised and put out, as the member has done with her digital and cybersecurity work. Absolutely, that is an incredibly important part of what we do and how we function. So, sir, I think I was tempted to quote another Monty Python myself after Deputy Tadia stood up, but I think we've had enough spam for today.
Thank you. Deputy Jehan.
Thank you, sir. And this, I was prompted to stand after Deputy Rob Ward talked in the end about States members' devices, and I wanted to ask the Deputy if in her research into doing this amendment, whether she has seen that there is a difference between members, and because there is a difference in access to devices and access to support on devices, it means that there will naturally be a difference when if this code of conduct and her amendment would be agreed, that different members would be awarded different support when it comes to digital. And what I mean by that, and I've brought it up before with oral question and a written question to the Chief Minister, I've brought it to PPC, is that some members are provided with government computers. I was, when I entered into politics, because I was Assistant Minister, so I was granted a government computer, but I had to hand it back when the vote of no confidence happened, and I became a deputy, didn't have another role in the government. And so I went back to using my own computer. I could have purchased one, of course, with the grant that Deputy Ward has talked about. But also, not only that, okay, I have access to a different device, but what I do not have is access to IT support within the government. And that is a huge issue, because I've had a couple of incidences with my computer where I needed to have IT support. I also want to have somebody go to my computer and say it's actually, you know, I am PEP, and I want to make sure that I am not hacked in any way, that I don't have these phishing emails, that I am, as my devices are the top that I can be because of my position. But I don't have access to that. I have to go and source support for myself. I have to pay for myself. Yet other members in this room have access to IT within the government. They can phone any time. We do not have that luxury. We were provided a phone number, but when I phone that phone number, we're told because we don't have a government device, they cannot go into my computer. And therefore that's where I'm concerned about this amendment, is that unless we have access to the same digital support to be able to ensure that we are protected as PEPs, we could fall foul of this code of conduct, because we don't have that same level playing field. to start with. And I have raised this a number of years. I've raised this with PPC and I've yet to have an answer. I was wondering if the Deputy could talk to that and understand where that, if there is any movement on that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Alex Curtis.
Thank you, sir. I won't take long on this one. I think Deputy Rob Ward has a very good point to make, and I'll give two examples I think the Deputy should directly respond to. The calls to the kind of comparisons to the cyber security law are ones I think are misguided in judging the main impact of this, and I think what was touched upon by Deputy Tadier is the key one. This is about when facilities and services are used in support of their parliamentary activities. I believe this was brought in no short reason to prevent, for example, the trading of business or commerce by somebody within the parliamentary estate or holding completely personal meetings, perhaps a birthday bash in the Ivy Forster room. So I think that's why we've got this, and that's the intent behind Rule 11. The challenge that comes with digital is there are elements of what we are provided with as a service that are harder to separate with their use. Relevant policies, security, I think are fine, but the two I think that have been highlighted, first is that of the connection to the Wi-Fi and the network in here, especially the one we connect to. Here we have our own personal devices on that. No doubt if members step out of this chamber or are in between meetings in scrutiny, they will use that for their personal use, for their message communications or the internet. That seems entirely a reasonable use of the service. We are not switched on all the time to only performing that, and it's impossible to stop those devices receiving communication of a personal nature. I think that's a reasonable use of a service, and it shows where a digital service has many others. The other one that I think would impact how people use their devices is many people use a single device. They will use it for their parliamentary work and their own work. They will have probably purchased that device themselves. In this case, it isn't a state-managed device, it is one like this. However, by virtue of the fact that you use shared software, and a key one would be the Microsoft Office suite, Word, Publisher, or no, not Publisher, that's getting retired for those who enjoyed the early 2000s publishing suite. But Outlook is a key one, sir. Now, one can use their email platform entirely in line with government policy, ensuring password compliance. The device will be registered against the management policies outlined by digital services. However, they will have private email accounts on that device. They cannot, by virtue of how digital software is designed, separate the licensing of Microsoft Outlook, a paid-for piece of software or by subscription, between each device, and therefore they are using a service provided under Microsoft, the license we have as government for their personal use. One may say, common sense says, well, that's a very clear use of it. I think that the Deputy has to be clear in summing up how the implication of that is, whether somebody would then be able to turn around on a technicality, say, well, you should not be using your Microsoft license for work that is not in the pursuit of parliamentary work. In particular, as I say, the unavoidable one would be the Microsoft Office suite. So whilst I appreciate the intent, I think the thrust of Rule 11 is about the use of physical spaces in pursuit of parliamentary business, ensuring that those who are on parliamentary property, whether it be Murrier House, Hill Street or here, are on for the correct purpose. And I don't think we need to change Rule 11 at this point in time, given the ambiguity it causes.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Renniff.
Yes, thank you. Deputy Alex Curtis has made the point very eloquently that I think I was planning to do, but I would just emphasise that the amendment would effectively add the word digital in front of facilities and services, and that is, as Deputy Alex Curtis pointed out, means that things like the Wi-Fi would be encompassed, whereas the intent I see in Rule 11 is that facilities and services provided, including meeting rooms and office spaces, it's intended to make sure we don't misuse, I imagine, the mail system, make personal phone calls on fixed lines and so on. And I think it is a case, if we add in digital here, that we're providing potentially something that can be used against us, and it's unnecessary. I don't think that it feels like it's a useful addition. It actually adds more confusion and complexity than is needed.
Thank you, Deputy. Does anyone else wish to speak on this amendment? I call upon Deputy Scott to reply. Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. And I do thank members for their contributions, which I found quite astonishing at times. So, I think when I try and just get an overview of where these objections are coming from, it's because perhaps some people are focusing more on personal fears and freedoms over the public interest, but also that there's been a bit of a focus on the language that I didn't put in this Rule 11, talking about, and let's read it out again. Members must ensure that the use of facilities and services provided to them, including meeting rooms and office spaces, one, is in support of their parliamentary activities, whatever that might mean. So maybe if Deputy Ward, the Minister of Education, wants to have a look at sport, whatever, you might even argue that it is. I don't know. But this is, then we come back to the next point, and is in accordance with all relevant policies. So basically, policies have to exist, and a number of members have been asking me questions about, you know, is it right that there should be a different kind of treatment in terms of devices, the use of you know, public Wi-Fi, what's going on there. I'm not drafting any policies. These are things which either the GREF are going to produce or maybe the PPC will. So this is a different debate. My actual focus has been on actually something to do with the public interest, which is ensuring that we, as states members, protect that public interest by following policies that relate to digital that are designed to protect that public interest. So let's come back to the cybersecurity law. We'll come back to Deputy Robert Ward, who mentioned the cybersecurity law. It does not impose any duties whatsoever, Minister for Education, on states members directly. At the moment, it doesn't impose unsatisfactorily for a number of people, and it doesn't impose duties on non-ministerial departments. Ideally, it will, because, and I do believe that most of them are saying yes. There is an obligation on operators of essential services to take proportionate measures, underline that 3 times in red, proportionate measures to protect cyber security. Now, at some point, this is going to happen, and it should happen with non-ministerial departments. And if anybody wants to take issue with this, gosh, I can imagine 1,000 cybersecurity experts slapping their heads right now, saying, "You what? You do not want to protect the actual security of your systems." Now, so I do believe there's been a bit of a misunderstanding. At some point, as Deputy Jehan has actually raised, there really should be a bit more in the way of policies, protocols that will help us in actually using systems in what we can say is an agreed, responsible and proportionate way. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be put before a firing squad if you actually do look up the weather or something like that, which could indeed be something to do with parliamentary duties. You know, I really don't see that we need to be kind of squabbling about these things, when essentially what's being said here is that, do you agree that we, as states members, should be complying with protocols that are designed to protect systems? Now, do they exist at the moment? Well, at some point they will, and at some point there will be opportunity enough to comment on those. But how many times are we really, you know, we've got one code of conduct, and this is our opportunity to actually show that commitment, to stop 1,000 cybersecurity experts, you know, kind of like jumping into the sea in despair right now. So similarly, and I think that actually responds to generally all the points that are raised. I apologise if there's anything else. Oh yes, Deputy Tadier was talking about the use of plain English. We'd love him to. The plain English audit. Again, I didn't draft this code of conduct. I didn't put that language in there. But what I have pointed out is an ambiguity, basically saying that if protocols come in place, and they will do, we can anticipate, that we should be expected to comply with those too. So on that basis, I won't say any more, sir, I think enough has been said, but I really do urge members to show support for responsible compliance with proportionate measures that will be set out in policies, which, you know, and to support this amendment. Thank you, sir.
Point of clarification?
If the deputy
prepared to give way, point of clarification? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I was confused. I hope it really is a genuine point of clarification. The deputy put the digital policies and parliamentary together. Could you just clarify that one could be following digital policies compliantly whilst not performing parliamentary work? For example, using the Wi-Fi lawfully and not looking for indecent material or anything, but not doing so for a parliamentary reason. I was confused actually. If she could clarify that's a possible outcome.
Yes, Deputy.
Sir, I didn't draft this rule. I just tried to make it less ambiguous. But I do agree that actually having these two things combined is in support of their parliamentary activities and is in accordance with all relevant policies. Well, there's a comma. So, you know, as a lawyer, I'd say it's saying you've got to do two at the same time. But that's how I interpret it. And I'm sure there'll be lots of, how can I say, subjectivity in terms of how the code of conduct will be enforced, should be interpreted, and indeed how it's even going to be enforced. But what I can say is if there is a major cybersecurity incident so that we can't use any systems, and if it's as the result of members not even informing themselves because they didn't comply with a policy that perhaps the GREF said, saying you will have training in these things to make you aware of the risks, and that would be it, you know, that you will attend these trainings to be aware of these risks, or you will take reasonable measures. I haven't, you know, then that could well be a breach of the code, which some people would say it would be without this language. I'm just saying, let's make that clear. Please don't be worried about these implications so far, because the policies don't even exist.
That has been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats. I'll photograph here to open the voting. Four members have the chance of casting their votes. I'll ask the graphier to close the voting. That announced amendment has been rejected. 14 votes for, 29 votes contra, and 2 abstentions. Yes.
Those voting for the Conotabs of St Martin, St John and St Saviour, and deputies Labey, Tadier, Luce, Morel, Gorst, Balash, War, Scott, Rose Binet, Ferry, and online Deputy Alves, and those voting, those who abstained were Deputy Kovac and Deputy Robert Ward. Oh, sorry, Barbara Ward. Sorry.
Members content to adjourn? Adjourn till 2:15.